Thanks for joining us, man.
Yeah, no, brilliant.
Really appreciate you coming to do
Don't
this.
be daft, mate. It's a pleasure.
It's been a long time coming.
Cool.
How are you anyway?
I'm really well, thank you, Marc.
What are you up to these days? What is your current job title, would you say?
What is my MO at the moment? Well, I've always tried to sort of keep it musically based, and that's why I've done a variety of jobs in the sort of industry. But obviously, as you get a bit older, I find it's harder to keep track of what the kids are into, even though I do try, and I'm pretty, I'm always up for listening to new stuff. But it's very difficult when you're not a certain age group anymore. You're not a certain age bracket. You change demographic.
You become detached, don't you?
Mate, I'm 42.
It's just natural. It's natural.
I'm an older guy, and the natural thing to do something I have to fight against is just listening to my favourite records.
Yeah.
It's difficult, You just want to go in your record because those records are going to do the business. You sat there, we work hard. It's like you got a bit of downtime. I'll stick this album on. So to actually go out and find new things. So I find listening to, and I don't work in a music venue anymore. That's what's changed. I had a good 8-year run of being like a venue booker,
which we'll get to.
Yeah, and that was a lot of fun. But now, I work behind the scenes.
Are you do you class yourself self-employed? Are you sort of freelance?
Yes, freelance, and that means I've managed to become a bit of a jack of all trades, to be honest.
So what are some of the things that you've done?
Okay, so the summer I did a full UK tour with the Spice Girls.
That's what I saw. Yeah, that's on the list to talk about.
Yeah, that was very interesting.
Doing what? What did you do?
Doing backstage furniture. We're literally just...
Right, okay.
So basically, say they do, I think there was 7 stadiums they did.
Right.
It was like 15 dates in all, I think. These are rough figures. And obviously at every one, there's got to be a backstage area for each one of the band.
Yep.
The backing vocalists, the dancers, the supports, the friends and family, the VIPs, the VVIPs. So you've got like 8 or 9 rooms to temporarily decorate. So you just run in, you pipe and drape, you put the couches in. You've got 2 articulated lorries that follow you around the country full of couches. And obviously I can't go into too much detail because... some of the stuff that I saw, the press would like to get their hands on. There's no doubt about it. You are in the eye of the storm.
Yeah.
And what was interesting is, it was nice to be on a top end tour. You don't get bigger than that.
No,
maybe
not really.
You can get on a level with that.
Other variations of that.
U2,
that's the
Metallica,
top, really.
Pink, ELO. These are
selling out stadiums is selling out stadiums, whoever it is.
Exactly.
So,
and there's a select group. There's a select group that can do that, and. It's a similar thing. So to be involved in that, just to watch it, be involved, the people that I met, and, everyone was like, oh, did you meet the Spice Girls? I was like, I sort of let onto them a couple of times, but I'm not there for that. But so that was one of the things that I've sort of, as I've got into just insisting on working in music, doors open.
Of course. The longer you're in there.
I've always said this, if you're heading in the right direction, and you're working hard, doors open. You can't plan on them opening. If you'd have said to me 2 years ago, oh, you'll end up on this tour or doing that or working for this venue, I wouldn't have known that and I couldn't have planned for it. But because I was in the game and I was doing bits and I was making myself useful to certain people, opportunities arise.
You proved yourself.
Yeah.
That's why.
But
it's part of it.
On the other hand, it was tiring. It's a tiring life, that. And a lot of the guys that do it, there's 50, 60-year-old guys on those tours doing like video lighting, special effects or whatever. And, they're on good money, but... they earn it.
Takes its toll.
Those tour buses are not fun to sleep on.
No.
It was the first tour I'd ever done on a tour bus. I'd done splitter tours. Obviously, you can get to... a lot of bands will do it in 2 estates, won't they? It's like, it's doable, isn't it? But to do a proper tour bus tour was a first for me, and a lot of my friends have done it. And I don't know how. And they're fun. It's fun, but those...
the longer it goes on...
I didn't find it... I mean, luckily we were getting put up in really nice hotels on the day off. The great thing about being on a tour like that is that there's no expense spared.
Yeah.
You get looked after. Like, when you're doing your job, it's full on and it's intense. But when you stop, there's a driver there to take you to your 4-star hotel.
Yeah.
After you've had catering. And the catering, I came back overweight. I mean...
usually the tours when you lose weight because your eating's all over the place.
The physical... nature of the job and the fact that, let's be fair, let's take the Millennium Stadium in Cardiff, for example, or Wembley even. To walk round Wembley, like on the concourse or whatever floor that you're on, takes quite a while. It's like so. My colleague used his, I think, pedometer or his something on the iPhone or whatever, and it turns out we were walking 25 miles a day. And a few of those miles were carrying
stuff.
Yeah. And obviously... you try and be useful, so people be like, oh, can you do this, can you do that? And so you've done a full day's work and a big walk, so you'd think you'd lose weight. Not when you've got catering that is like eating in a posh restaurant every day, right? I don't do breakfast, really. But when there's a full English breakfast being offered to you every day,
You can't say no.
it's the smell of it.
Yeah, it
It's
is.
the look of it, and then you eat it and you're like, oh, for fuck's sake, I've got to do a full day's fucking work now. Then, of course, lunch with dessert, pudding, whatever. I don't, lunch is usually a passing bite, isn't it?
Yeah.
Not a full sit-down meal with pudding.
Because you don't normally have the capacity to do that. It's like, I'll go and get a sandwich or something.
Who's cooking
but
it for you?
Exactly.
Who's
so
got the time
now
to
it's
do
like,
that?
here you go. Look, do you want all this? You're like,
You go in there,
yeah.
it's like, well, do you want this brilliant dinner, this brilliant dinner? It's not just like, oh, here's a plate of chips, see you later. And then obviously, your evening meal is the same. And yes, I came back a little bit tubby, actually.
But you stop when it did.
It was a lot of fun. And then I dropped onto Bon Jovi for a couple of dates, and that was fun. Got around the country.
Was
Gave
Bon
me
Jovi
something to
similar venues as well?
Yeah. Different vibe. I found, obviously, because I'd been working with a tour ongoing, it was like a family by the end of it.
Right, yeah.
All right, there were people who didn't like each other, or I didn't like certain heads, or whatever.
But they still get on with their work.
But
aren't
yeah,
they?
you're still part of a sort of moving army.
Of course.
And that's what it is.
Yeah.
The actual logistics of what goes into these things. They're mental, there's B teams, because they sort of do it, they leapfrog each other. 'Cause
Yeah.
to build,
Sometimes they have 3 going on
I believe
at
so.
the same time.
Yeah, I mean, because I've built stages like that, and we've done the steel or whatever. We've done the scaffolding, we've built it up, and you're like, you're doing it a week before the band turn up. You're well in advance, or several days. I mean, we did Beyonce at the cricket ground, and we built this like 60-foot LED wall, brick, like cube kind of thing. Yeah, that was great. So one of the things I do, I'm a stagehand. I've done promoting. I do a bit of repping for promoters. I look after their shows. I still put some shows on, but I'm very selective.
Yeah.
Well, when I say selective, I just like working with bands that we make money out of.
Yeah.
Not we make money. We all make money together.
Yeah, the whole
and I
thing
think that's
makes
really
money.
important.
Yeah.
Let's say, we've worked together
Yeah, we have.
several
Number of
times.
shows, yeah.
And when you're a headline band, we did headline shows,
Yeah,
didn't
we did
we?
a couple,
The band, I always like it when I walk away with a few quid and the band walk away with a few quid.
Of course.
That's the best thing, when everybody's got a pocket full of money. And, the support bands, it's like if you make an effort, I'll make it worth your while, It's
Exactly.
not pay to play. I don't agree with that. But if you do sell some tickets and you do bring a load of heads down, then hell yeah, I'm going to give you some of that money too,
Yeah.
right? Because I would like you to do that again.
Yeah.
Not like I'm going to rip this band off and we'll never see them again.
No.
It's like, well, surely you build up anyway. So I'm lucky I work with a few bands that
Yeah.
still do the numbers without having to go crazy with the promotion, because we do promote gigs, but some
If you're using
shows,
the right bands, it kind of takes care of itself. A lot of half of it anyway.
It can do. Specifically, obviously I work with Blaze Bailey, the ex-Iron Maiden guy. There are people that will go to that show.
Yeah.
Okay, we've got to let them know about it, but there comes a point where you almost stop promoting it. You've done everything you need to do. You've done the posters, you've done the Facebook posts, the tickets are selling. His fans know it's on.
Yeah.
There's no one else out there that's going to walk past a poster and go, oh, Blaze Bailey, Iron Maiden, I think I'll go to that.
Yeah.
That's rare as rocking horse shit, mate. No one really
Not
does
these
that.
days.
When bands go, oh, no one came to watch us, there was 4 bands on it, was a fiver. I'm like, yeah, because no one knows who you are.
Exactly.
No one fucking cares.
Yeah.
Sorry to say it.
At the end of the day.
You've got to be good. You've got to be... And when I say good, there's a lot of... what I love about Manchester particularly is that it's very fertile for live music. Kids get in bands. Lots and lots of bands, DJs, producers, and there's always loads of cool stuff going on. But the fact is that there's a lot of them, and there's not enough people to watch them all. There might have been a few years ago. I certainly remember... I don't know whether it's the economy or whatever. I just think people... Or maybe it's the age group that have moved on, and the 18 to 25-year-olds that have replaced them aren't necessarily into...
There's a lot more of them as well, though. It's a lot easier to do that these days.
There's a lot of gigs on as well. There's a lot of bands, and every band, wants to play a gig, and that's great.
But as we've said many times on this show, like your average punter isn't going to as many small venues to see smaller bands these days.
I think what it is my personal theory, and I think this is why arena and Apollo-sized gigs still smash it, or 10,000 cap gigs, or whatever, the big bands, the big touring bands. You pay that money, all right, it's 50, 70, or how much was Metallica? Was it a one-er?
I was 96.
Certain seats were
Getting on for a
£100.
ton.
Yeah, but you know what? Like, you pay that money, you know what you're going to get. You know that show's going to be great. You're getting guaranteed value for money. The footy's 50, 60 quid.
That's going up all the
And
time.
you
the
could go and
football.
watch United and it could be shit. It's today, I think.
Well, quite often it
Don't
is.
worry, my team are getting out. We've got hammered yesterday as well. I'm not exactly
You
crowing
who
about
you
it.
support?
I support Arsenal.
Arsenal. Okay.
Yeah, look, I like my football.
So I was going to. Are you? So you're obviously from London.
Right, okay, so I was born in a place called Slough, which is London and a few more miles. My dad and my mum are both Londoners.
The only thing I know about Slough is it was always on that police programme.
Oh, yeah, Interceptors.
Road Wars. The first one in 2000s. Pat and Carl are on patrol in Slough.
Yeah, I mean, it was interesting. I hadn't been back for about 25 years, and I decided to go over the summer. I just got this mad thing where I had to go and see where I grew up.
Yeah.
And it was very, it was typical. I got back there and I don't know what I was expecting, but it was a fucking shithole ghost town full of dickheads, you know what I mean? No, I mean, a lot of the people I went to school with were lovely, and I went to a really good school down there. But what happened was my dad got a new job, and we all moved en masse as like the family to Manchester in, I think, 1991.
So how old have you been?
13.
You're 13, right.
It's quite
a pivotal age to be moving, isn't it?
Well, yeah, I mean, it was. Secretly, I was like, this is going to be all right. This, I was excited at the prospect of moving to Manchester, and
Bit gutted about leaving all your friends, though.
a little,
Yeah.
But you're a bit more adventurous at that age, though, aren't you? And I was like, Slough,
true.
Manchester, I mean, it was. I was quietly quite excited about it, and I came up here, and yeah, it was a bit of a culture shock. It was a different culture. It just seemed like everyone was a bit naughtier, to be honest.
So was music kind of already your sort of thing then
No,
anyway?
No, it wasn't. It was sport.
Okay.
Music kind of came along when I moved to Manchester.
Right.
Because everyone was so into it, you know what I mean?
You moved just before the whole Oasis and all that,
Well,
didn't you?
yeah,
A few years before that?
but during the Happy Mondays, Stone Roses
course.
sort of
Yeah,
heyday, and also like early doors, I got into a lot of US hip hop and rap.
Right.
Because that was the naughty thing to do at school. It was like, here's
Yeah.
NWA on cassette.
Yeah.
Don't tell your parents. And I was like, all right, I'll give this a listen. And there was a song on it called "Fuck the Police,"
Yeah,
and I
of
was
course,
like,
yeah.
"This is
Me
the
and my mates
greatest thing."
swapped tapes, but they didn't write. They just called
No,
it
you
something
couldn't.
completely different. So
Mate,
their
you're
parents
getting
didn't
loads of
find
trouble. You get in loads of trouble for having that
It was
cassette.
unbelievable.
Well, people thought it was genuinely subversive. And there hadn't been anything like it, and it was like, here's a bunch of black guys talking about, swearing the fucking heads off and talking about shooting people and whatever all experiences they've had.
Yeah.
And it was like, it's like anything. It's like reading a comic book, isn't it? It was exciting, loud, visceral, really fucking rebellious at the time. So that was one of the first things I really got onto that, and I sort of gravitated towards like old school hardcore house, like sort of like the Prodigy's early stuff, like a lot of those piano-y kind of things.
Yeah.
And then at some point, it kind of, we can get to that, but I ultimately ended up in a position now where, because of all that, I literally just like everything. If it's good, I like
That's
it.
a good position to be in.
And
So did you go? Were you in bands at one point?
No, I was never in any bands at all.
Never an ambition to be in a band.
I liked the idea of it, and I knew I wanted to be connected to it. So that's why one of the first things I've sort of made a move to do was promoting events. So when I was 22, because I'd got into jungle and drum and bass quite heavily in my late teens, like really heavily, and I'd got to know a few people that do the nights, and me and a friend used to go out on a Thursday. We used to go to Sankey's on a Thursday to a night called Guidance, and it was cutting edge drum and bass. And this is when drum and bass wasn't really that well known a thing. It was still very underground. So the nights were pretty intimidating. They were fierce. They felt like we'd scratched the surface of something exciting and underground. We were 18 years old, we're driving into Ancoats on a Thursday night. It's like already we're like, oh, right, okay. Bit dodgy round here, innit? You know where Sankey's is, don't you?
Yeah.
It's like, it's over the back, and then, it's hidden away. And, we saw people like Goldie, Hype, Groove Rider. And me and a couple of my friends, we were sat there having a smoke, and we were like, hey, wouldn't it be great if we did our own party? So we found this club in town. We didn't tell the guy what we were doing, because a lot of clubs at that point in time had a no drum and bass policy.
Right.
Because of the gang violence.
Okay, yeah.
Well, that was a real thing. Absolutely. There was the first night I went to was at the Hacienda, and it was worrying. There was heavy guys in there from different corners and blah blah blah. And I was only 18, so it was a bit like, it was an eye opener, but a good one.
Yeah.
And I was kind of secretly excited by it anyway. So we did our own night, and people were like, there's gonna be car full of knobheads turning up, and you're going to have trouble and blah, blah, blah. And yeah, it was a bit dodgy, but we got away with it. It was edgy, and we sold it out. And
Well, that's pretty good.
yeah, I made £1,000.
How did you sell it to people? What were you?
This is pre-internet, so what we did was we basically printed some flyers out, some really cheap flyers that we'd like almost handwritten, give a few of them out. But when you're 18 and you've got 100 mates, it's not that hard. It was like, oh yeah, Robin and my friend Niall, who was doing it with, they were like, they've got a club, let's go. It was like having a party at your house, a Facebook party. You know how those things can just explode like that. That's kind of what happened. We, within like, I think 20 minutes, I'd made all our money back.
Wow.
And we were sat there like, nice one. And I was like, well, it'd be this easy every time, won't it? Of course it isn't, because the first one you do is always the easiest.
Yeah, of course. There's
getting
a novelty factor in it.
Yeah, and through that, I ended up becoming a drum and bass promoter for a good 6 or 7 years.
Right.
Met some really cool people.
At the same place?
Liverpool, we did. We moved the club around Manchester. We were at the Roadhouse for a little bit. We did some Christmas parties there that were great. We had a couple of big nights over in Liverpool. We're talking like 300-400 cap things.
Yeah.
Keeping it on that level. But, some of the people I met and worked with then are doing quite big things now. And what happened was, during that time, well, basically, I always enjoyed music, but I couldn't play an instrument. It was never a thing that was encouraged. I never had music lessons or anything like that. So I bought myself a bass guitar when I was 16. I just had it in my head because I'd started listening to a lot of like alternative metal bands. And you're like, well, that looks fucking cool, doesn't it? I'd really want to do that. And I was terrible. I was absolutely fucking...
There's only 4 strings, surely.
I taught myself. I had no idea, and there was no internet, you know what I mean? And, if you pick the wrong... luckily, I had a next-door neighbour that showed me a few bits. He was an accomplished guitarist. He sort of set me on a track. But you'd ask some people, and some people, when you ask them, they can kind of go, oh, can't you do this
like
dizzyingly technical thing? It's almost like their opportunity to show off.
Yeah.
So I sucked for a good long time, but I never gave it up. And I thought, it was just a fun thing to do. So what happened was, when I was promoting drum and bass nights, this lad turned up one night and he was like, do you mind if I get on the mic? He wanted to MC over the music, obviously. And I was like, yeah, okay, yeah, go on. I kind of knew who he was because he'd been doing bits around town. And he was brilliant. And I looked at him and I thought, wouldn't it be cool if that guy was in a metal band? Wouldn't it be like really cool if like he was doing that sort of double time vocal over like some serrated metal riffing, or like some good drums, or like maybe even take Their Law by the Prodigy. There's a good example of like a heavy rock tune. It isn't quite a metal tune, you know what I mean? It's like it's got metal riffing in it, but it's not, the Metallica thing, I can't do that. I got all those books. That was how I kind of cracked it in the end. I got like all these tablature books, and I'd sit there, and whilst I was half trying to learn Master of Puppets and getting it wrong, I'd be like, well, that kind of works. I could just take that bit.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden I've got my own riff for my own song. And so I got a couple of other lads together, and we got lucky with a drummer that we found, a lad called Dominic. He was drumming in like jam bands around town, and he gravitated. We all just coalesced, and it just beautifully within 2 rehearsals, even with my inexperience. But I'd practiced so hard that I could actually
hold a note.
Yeah, I could. I can play a groove. I can hold a groove, and the great thing about playing the bass is that you can keep it simple and you can put your soul into it. So when you're playing these simple things, because you don't have to worry about this fucking crazy stuff, crazy stuff. I can concentrate on like giving it a bit of welly, or like the right hand's as important as the left hand. How you're hitting the string is as important as how many frets you're hitting at one time, because like you know yourself from playing guitar, you can hit a string one way or you can fucking hit it another way, and what comes out through the amp. So if you're playing like that sort of thing with Flea, he said you've got to play every note like it's the last note you're ever going to play before you explode or you die. Every single one's got to count, and if you play like that, it doesn't matter how simple it is. You could just play open E repeatedly, but if you're fucking hammering it, there's
different feels to it.
Your characteristics can come out, and you can add something to a piece of music without being particularly brilliant at doing it. And if you're a bass player, you're really just there to keep the rhythm together anyway. You and the drummer have got to be a cohesive unit. I mean, people always talk about Rage Against the Machine, and there's a reason for that. That's a spectacular rhythm section.
One of the best.
They hold it down, and Morello is like the icing on the cake, isn't he? He can sort of like drop his little bits over it, and it's like you're not expecting him to carry the sound. So he's got the freedom to do all these cool things, because when it drops out, the bass and the drums are locked in.
I think people don't even realise that. They don't realise what's happening. It's just one thing that they just sort of take for granted. It's always
cohesive unit.
Flawless.
Yeah. And, that's kind of like what we were aiming for. And obviously, because the frontman Anton had a fairly high profile. I mean, higher now. He's actually quite famous these days. It took off because people were interested in it, and it wasn't another indie band. It was like genuinely creative and all right. People have done, rapper over rock before. That wasn't a new thing, but doing it in that style with an English guy with a Manc accent, with the sort of drum and bass style to it, it was interesting, and we pulled it off, and we wrote a few good songs with, I'm a big believer in choruses. Unless you want to be in a jazz band, you've got to give... People have got to walk away from your gig with something that you did in their head, locked in their head. And I've watched fucking thousands of bands where...
You must have.
An hour later, tens of thousands. An hour later, you're like, I don't remember. It was unremarkable. You know what
sometimes
I mean?
you have got a song stuck in your head, though. That's the sign.
That's the one. When you walk out of there, and you've got... And I'd like to think that, like, there were several things that were resonating with people when they walked out. And, we had a really good run of it. We did 7 years.
What was the band called?
Daywalkers.
Is that still available online now, if anyone wants to...
Well, actually, we're going to... we're coming back, aren't we?
Oh, reunion.
Well, so what happened was we split up in a haze of acrimony and immaturity, and we've been doing it a while, and there was egos and lifestyle choices, and I'll admit to that. I was making bad lifestyle choices at the time. It all reached a point, and we all argued to the point where it was like, because we got on really well, don't be fooled. But this one explosion was enough that everyone just went, see you later.
Right.
I'm out of it. And that's when I moved into becoming a full-time promoter. But what happened was my frontman is drum and bass MC. So he continued to do that. I didn't want to be in another band. I had no compulsion to do it because I was like, well, I've been in the best band I'm ever going to be in. I'm not going to find another frontman like that. He's got star quality. It's rare. Very, very rare. And, so he's gone and carried on going, and he's become quite popular. He MCs for a guy called Andy C.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's not my scene, but even I've heard of him. So
Look, they sell out. So, he's come back and basically said, we were doing something cool. It was creative. And, he's achieving his goals in his field. I'm pretty chilled with the way things are going at the moment. I do my things. And, we're going to give it a go.
Why not?
Why not? I mean, it's, I bought a new
You're
guitar.
older now?
Well, this is the thing. It's like, Christ, 42 in a fucking metal band. It's like, but starting out. But the thing is, you've got to do it for the right reasons.
Yeah.
But if we do and it works, well, we're not going to be nobodies.
No.
There'll be people waiting to hear it.
Of course.
With a bit of clout. And, if we pull it off, just be fun to do. All I want to do is maybe re-record some of the old tracks, make a video, put a little EP out with 5 tracks on it. And if that's all we do...
We'd be happy.
Just to put a full stop on it.
Yeah.
If anything, just so it wasn't like, that band split up before they did something cool because they were dickheads.
You want to get the songs that you had recorded at a decent quality as well.
They the stuff that we did back then does sound a bit dated. It does need to be done again.
That's like, you wouldn't have had money to have them professionally produced in that then.
Well, we did because we got a management deal with some local people that had got a couple of artists, like I think it looks after Lamb and Stephen Fretwell. And one of them went on to look after J.P. Cooper, right, singer-songwriter who had a good run for a little while. So we were in line to do a film soundtrack. It was Transformers,
right?
Which we didn't end up doing, but our management were like, so they put us in a studio with this guy called Steve Lyon, and he had engineered Songs of Faith and Devotion by Depeche Mode. He'd worked with Paul McCartney, and he was up for bringing an act through. So we did pre-production with him, and then we did 2 tracks, which I have got at home. I think Ton's got them somewhere. They were on the MySpace site. This is how long ago it was.
MySpace, that says it all.
I know. We did 2 tracks in what I can only describe as like a Hollywood setting. It was only 2 days, but, it was brilliant. Again, for me, just thrown right into it. Never done it before, never really done it since. I've recorded in, lesser studios, but that was a high point. But, I blagged it, basically.
Yeah.
I taught myself to play bass to the level that I needed to be in the one band that I could get away with it. Well, it's like when you're writing the stuff as well. If someone goes, here's a piece of music, and you're like, shit, I can't play it. But if you're the one going, here's the music, well, it's as easy as I want it to be.
Yeah.
And the thing about playing the bass as well is that not less is more, but, as long as it's making the right frequencies at the right times with the right feel, that's all it needs to be.
Yeah, it connects with enough people.
Well, look
as
at like
when you do
reggae.
it.
Look, dub reggae. It's like, these are simplistic bass lines, but they just get into a mantra, a groove,
Yeah.
don't they? And that's, if they started fucking about up the neck and trying all these different. I mean, I watch some of these pro guys and double thumbing and all that, and it's like, when are you ever going to use that in a fucking song? When is that ever going to be useful apart from showing off to your
It
bird?
is showing off. Yeah,
It's
it's like a lot of the guitar players or the fret wanking.
yeah.
kind of impressive, but-
Look, guitarist's great. I'm always boring my girlfriend with like we're watching something. I'm like Pantera, Dimebag, like just him playing guitar. You know what I mean? I love shit like that, and I'm a big Meshuggah fan, and I like a bit of tech metal.
Yeah,
I like the tones. I like it done well, but that's not for me because I like it. I don't want to do that.
yeah.
I just want to make the music that I can, pop off on stage to. And we got to do some big gigs.
Yeah.
It's some very big gigs. We opened for some big bands and we played some big venues. So for me, even if it did end, I was like, well, fucking hell, wasn't too bad, was it?
Yeah.
Achieved a few. If I was 16 and all I wanted to do was just play a gig once, well, I got to play like 120 and some of them were to like 2,000-3,000 people.
Yeah.
It would have been nice to do it for a living. And I'm not, well, a bit of a pipe dream. But either way, we had fun doing it. And it was experimental, and I'm proud of it, and I'm proud that was a part of my life where I actually had the balls to stand up and say, this is what I'm doing, and I put it out there. Because a lot of ideas just stay in your head.
Yeah, they do. Yeah.
You think about things, and, having the... Well, they say, isn't it, like geniuses are the people that put their ideas into effect, and people that are mad are people that don't. They're the same. You're crazy, but the crazy person that turns into a genius gets his ideas, has the energy to get a band together, make some tunes, book a gig, play it. These are difficult things, as you know yourself. Just doing that is
Ticking them
difficult.
off the list.
Very hard. I mean, I lived in a high-rise at the time, so rehearsals were like... I mean, all right, there was a lift, don't get me wrong, but just rehearsing with getting 4 guys of like...
Places, is there plenty of places to rehearse in Manchester? Obviously, it costs, but...
Yeah, there's loads, but I mean, you've got to get everybody free on the same night.
That's it.
And then you've got to go. And they're usually, I tell you what, rehearsal rooms, they're fucking cold. They're not places that like really get you like fired up.
Not the ones you can afford, anyway.
I tell you what, Blueprint Studio's always really nice. The one that Elbow use.
I've
It's
heard of
Salford.
it.
It's sort of like on the edge of town. It's near that pub, the Eagle, near the Renault garage on Trinity Way. Anyway, that's a pro setup. But some of these places, they're great. They're 30 quid. You go in and it's like, right, you've made all this effort. You've basically done a load-in just to get your rig in there. You're all set up. You're making noise. Now it's like, right, be creative.
Yeah.
Now do something. So there's ways to do it. I mean, we always used to go, right, who's got an idea? Go round everybody. You got an idea? You got a drum beat? All right, you roll that out for 4 bars, and then maybe that'll trigger something for me to do. Or very often I just go, I've got this riff.
Yeah.
And you throw it out there, and the guys go, right, well, you could do this and this and this and this. And it's a collaborative thing where you build it up.
Yeah.
Very rarely would someone come in and go, here's the song, it starts here and finishes here. That happened once or twice. And luckily, it was my guitarist, Phil, and he was fucking dynamite. So it was like, yeah, all right, I'll play that. He'd even written the bass lines. Yeah, good. They were great. I don't give a fuck.
Sweet.
If it works, it works, right? There's absolutely no need to change something that's good. And so there was plenty of that.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll see. I bought some new guitars too. I bought an acoustic bass, which I've always wanted because of the Chili Peppers video. Soul to squeeze, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's brilliant. I just like that. It's got a real resonant, like thumping tone to it. It's big body. And I picked it up and went into one of those like cash generator places, and it was on the wall, 250 quid. And the guy in there just walked up and he went, give me 150, you can have it now. Clearly no one wanted it.
Yeah.
So I was like, all right, okay. So I Googled it and I was like, yeah, right. Give me the guitar, please. Absolutely beautiful piece of kit. So yeah, that is that. So on we go.
I was going back to the working in stadiums. That's quite a select group of people who actually get to do that. And I was wondering, do you think like one of those bands who do it, like Spice Girls, say Metallica, Iron Maiden, in a few years when they aren't around anymore, do you think there'll be anyone who will get to that level?
Well, that is a very interesting question because a lot of these people are getting old. Let's look at let's take 3 bands. Metallica, all right, they're not ancient, but as Hetfield himself said, like playing Fight Fire with Fire every night, it's not like being in the fucking Rolling Stones. They're not strumming a chord here and there. These are Master of Puppets, hard song to play.
Yeah,
technical.
They use the Rolling Stones as well. They're still technically gigging, but it's a different kind of music, though, isn't it?
how long can Jagger go on for?
Exactly.
I mean, good on him.
Yeah.
It's absolutely brilliant, but, he's got to be 75, right?
They're all in the 70s now, yeah.
I mean, I saw a bit of a video of him in rehearsal prancing around. I mean, I'm not a big Stones fan, to be honest. I like some of the edgier tunes. Like, they're the ones that are in Goodfellas and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I don't own any of their albums. I don't really care to, but good on him. But, he's nimble on his feet. But I suppose when you're worth like £500 million, you
can do what you want.
You've got nutritionists. Apparently before they go on tour, they'll go to some desert island where like they don't drill, but they get fit for the tour.
Yeah, but they don't need to do it, so they must want to do it.
I think if you're used to doing stuff like that, it must
You've
be very
always done it.
hard to give it up because the moment you give it up, people forget about you, and you'll just get
and you
old
think,
and
what the
die.
hell am I going to do?
Get old and die in your mansion. And that's where maybe bad habits kick in as well. That's when people that are off tour.
But you can see them
I
just let
struggle
themselves
with
go as well.
Mate, I struggle with free time because I'm freelance and because of the nature of my work. When I'm not working, I have to be busy.
Yeah.
And when I'm busy, I get busier. When I've got nothing to do, I go to the pub every night. I've got it in me to be that person. I think it was, who's that guy? Anthony Bourdain, is it?
Bourdain.
Bourdain, yeah.
Yeah.
He said, famous quote. I mean, God bless him, obviously.
Did he kill himself?
I don't know.
Can't remember what happened, but I think he did.
I think he did.
Yeah.
He said, look, ultimately, I just want to sit around, smoke weed and watch films and lie in bed all day. That part, it's a constant battle every day to keep that side of my personality far away from what I'm actually doing.
Yeah.
Well, that's me.
It's like self-discipline. That should be your reward for doing a lot of stuff.
Yeah, but I just like chilling, So
Yeah.
I have to get busy to be busy, and once I'm in that circle,
But you do seem like the type of, you do get shit done.
Yeah, but there's so many more things that I could. So it's a constant quest to just.
It's self-discipline, isn't it?
Because
you can only do so much, and you have got to have some time where you just do nothing because that's what you want to do.
Very true.
You've got to do that sometimes.
Very true, but I do. Yeah, I mean, I get that, and I've still got like worlds to conquer.
Of course,
and I know that the only thing that's stopping me doing it is just making that extra bit of effort. I always say this: there's two paths. There's the easy path and the hard path, and the hard path involves things that you might not necessarily like to do, like a lot of work, and it's like it isn't pleasant, like getting things up and running, or from time to time I'll have to do a job that I'm not that into just to sort of like fill in a gap or whatever.
Yeah.
It can be a fucking pain in the arse, to be honest, but you know what, you do it because in your head you're moving towards goals.
And like for you, even if it's something that you're not that bothered about doing, if it's still in the industry, you're happy days, isn't it?
Being a stagehand, doing crew work, stuff like that, building stages. I don't mind a bit of manual work. It keeps you fit. It's good fun working with the lads. I do a bit of repping as well, looking after other people's shows.
Yeah.
And if I have to jump on a building site for a few weeks just to fill in a gap, then I'll do it.
Yeah.
As long as you're careful with your money as well, that's the other thing. Yeah. So basically it's a battle. You want to chill out, but there's a lot of things to achieve out there. And
you don't want to run yourself into the ground either, though.
No, but I'm not finished. Like,
no.
I feel like I've had a good run, but I always say this: I didn't get this far just to get this far.
Yeah. This is like only part of the journey.
Well, I've done okay, and I've done some really cool stuff. But I've got mates that are fucking smashing it. They're national promoters. They own festivals, and they're in brilliant bands. And I've got friends that don't, and they're still cool as well. But I'm still a bit like,
you've got ambition.
I've still got a couple of hands left to play, should we say, but there comes a point where I don't want to be 48, 50 still like, oh yeah, one day I'll do this.
Yeah.
It's like we're I wouldn't say borrowed time, but I definitely feel like, what was mad, turning 42. 40, didn't give a shit. It was quite funny actually.
I'm only a couple of years away from that.
Right, 41 again, all right, and then 42, you're like, hang on a minute, I'm fucking 43 next. Then where's this? And then all of a sudden, so it put a bit of pressure on in a good way. It was like, shit, there's not much time to make, there's not many more starts left. So
would you like to have like your own company doing stuff like that? Where
do you know what, promoting? No, possibly, we'll see. I mean, it's hard.
What would your ideal job be?
Fucking hell, smoking weed. No, I'm joking. I don't know, ideal job. Well, my dad always used to joke. He was like, well, you couldn't play for Arsenal. And like, you tried being in a band, so what's left? And I'm like, I don't know.
You're still searching.
The next best thing, I think you're always looking for the next thing to rock your world, engage you. So we'll see. I still do my shows. I'm still playing music.
Yeah.
And I've got a, 2020 it is, isn't it? We'll see, hopefully, some music. I want to move towards a more creative side. I would be quite happy to do a day job that I found relatively engaging, whatever it was doing. If it gave me the freedom to put on the odd show, concentrate on being a bit more creative, as opposed to, this freelancing thing's great. I mean, I saw you at Kendall that time. I was stage managing.
Yeah,
there.
I just bumped into you at Kendall.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, I did a lot of work over the summer. I worked at a lot of festivals, but you know what? Can you work next week? Can you do this? Oh, there's a job tomorrow.
Yeah.
It started to get a little bit tiring.
You just got to drop everything and just...
Well, you just never know where you're at, And
Yeah.
So for example, me and my girlfriend had, it's obviously a friend of mine works for Download and blah, blah, blah. So we were going to go and see Tool, and I booked the Airbnb and we'd have everything sorted. And then I got offered the Spice Girls tour and it was like, well, look, I can't do Download then.
Yeah.
I can't do it. Well, it's either spend a load of money or earn a load of money.
Yeah.
A load of money as well. It's like these, that's the other thing about doing these tours. The money's it's good. I mean, you earn it, but so it's stuff like that. And it would be, I think the ideal situation would be to get it where I've got a job that I can just tick along with, pays the bills. Don't not got any kids.
Yeah.
That's a big thing. I've studiously avoided that burden.
Snap.
They're lovely and all that. Sister's got two. I've got a niece and a nephew that are brilliant, but I'm not ready for that, and I may never be.
Don't have time.
I just like my money.
Yeah.
I like my
I'm the
freedom. I like to do what I want to do, and it never happened accidentally to me, like it did to other friends. Where and because I know that I'd rise to it.
Yeah, you just do it.
Yeah, I would do it because I've seen many friends that are brilliant parents that were total yobbos, or
Yeah. But something like can change a person, can't it? I've got to get my shit together.
All of a sudden, your priorities and your obligations are completely different. They have to be.
Yeah.
If you're a decent person, they have to be.
Yeah.
Or it will all become. And that's how I would be.
Yeah.
And knowing I would be like that is why I've chosen not to to do it.
Like some people say, oh, it's like selfish not having kids because you want to do like your own thing. But like everybody doesn't have to have kids, do they? You can't.
No, they don't. They don't. And if you're not like fully into the idea of doing it, definitely don't do it.
Yeah.
Well, maybe. I've not ruled it out, but I don't want to be having kids when I'm 50 either, you know what I mean? It's like, you don't want to be...
You do hear that sometimes these days, and you think, well, when he's like 20, you're going to like 80.
Nothing against it, and that maybe that will happen to me. I don't know, and if it does, you embrace it. But obviously, if your kid's 20 and you're 70, you're not going to be around for the bulk of... I mean, let's be fair, I don't really want to go past 80, 85 anyway. The moment, like, I can't go for a run or kick a football, like,
I mean, some people, their only ambition is to have kids and have a family, and that's fine.
Amazing.
But I think we're both the same way. It's like, I wouldn't mind doing that, but I want to do something, I want to achieve something.
My eye was always on something. I don't know what, but it was like doing something different, doing something creative. Yeah,
that's
something cool, something that like...
It's part of the reason why I started this.
Mate, this setup is brilliant, by the way. This is a pro setup. This is really cool. So yeah, well done for getting it to this stage, because I know how difficult it is. And coming here today, I was like, this is obviously, I've thought about doing the same thing. We're both people.
You
with
easily
a lot to
could
say.
Do this as well.
Well, maybe we should do it more often.
Yeah.
Maybe
definitely.
we can make a regular thing out of it, and then that would work for both of us. So you saw it here first. So I was really intrigued to come down and see your setup, because obviously you've taken your cues from current podcasters. Yeah. Could you call them?
Yeah, definitely.
And I mean, who's the leading light? It's Rogan, isn't it?
Joe Rogan, yeah.
Absolutely. It's interesting, Joe Rogan. When I first saw him, I was very suspicious.
I remember having this conversation with you like a few years ago. Like, you weren't a fan. You weren't a fan.
This prick? Like, I mean, I've got loads of mates that do MMA, but he was like, I just thought, oh, it's just some fucking prick, isn't it? Gonna, and because some of his early guests were people like Milo Yiannopoulos, Ben Shapiro. These are dickheads. They're not cool people. It's good that he has them on, though. Now I realise, when I thought that was...
You thought, like a lot of people, you associate him with them. You think he must be on their side.
Right.
He must agree with them, but he just has... But he'll have some of the opposite on as well.
Yeah, Bernie Sanders on.
Exactly.
I mean, that's fucking crazy. When I saw that, I was like, you know what? I take everything back, because he has got the most socialist, liberal, left-wing guy in the United States. Can you imagine
and he doesn't give a fuck.
Mate, imagine what all the Rogan fanboys must have thought about that? Because they thought, hey, he's ours.
Yeah.
He's Breitbart, he's this, he's that. I mean, I still think he does stick up for him a little bit. Like, a lot of these people don't need to be fucking heard. I mean, Ben Shapiro.
Can of worms.
Look, I mean, He just doesn't strike me as a particularly compassionate or nice man. And you know what? If your job in life is to be a fucking troll, like is that the sum total of your fucking effort? You know, I'm a bit of an agitator online. How about we all get along? You know what I mean?
I know.
And he's got that voice as well. I think that Joe Rogan pities him. I think he's like that school kid that Rogan's like, I'll defend you. But yeah, Rogan's come into his own. And I mean, having Bernie Sanders on was quite unbelievable because, you know, he really fucked with what must have been some of his original audience.
Yeah.
Because Sanders is widely hated in these states, as much as he's loved, because they've got it into their heads that, you know, whatever, socialism, this, and it's like, no, there's nothing wrong with a fairer society. You've just been bullshitted into thinking that this is the next step towards Soviet communism. But that's a trick that rich people use to trick poor people into staying poor, though, isn't it?
He has a good palette of guests of all different varieties, and
some of the people I've never heard of.
Yeah, exactly.
So there's some guy who I can't remember his name. Anthony Cumia. He was on the... He's a breakfast DJ from New York. He's obviously famous in the States. No one knows who he is over here. That's one of my favourite ones. He's fucking hilarious.
And they got banned off the show, didn't they?
Yeah.
A few years ago.
Because they had a thing they had a thing where you had to call in the station and say, I'm having sex in this like public space right now. And someone, I think, was it anal sex in a church?
Like that. Yeah, it was something like that.
And they were like, oh no, and they made up an April Fool's that the mayor's been assassinated.
Oh, yeah.
Like that's hilarious, but can you imagine? It's like, the mayor's been shot. You know,
you're on mainstream. Well, I suppose it's satellite radio.
It was mainstream radio.
Yeah.
He's gone on to satellite radio. Anyway, stuff like that. That's hilarious.
That was the Opie and Anthony show. That was.
I went and checked a load of his stuff, and it turns out this guy's a bit of a piece of shit, to be honest with you. I mean, you know, but he's funny, really funny, and he had a really good take on a few things, and it was I've listened to that one a few times. Mm. You know, the Patrick Cox one is it Patrick Cox? What's his name? Thingy Cox.
Brian Cox.
Yeah. Patrick Cox. Fucking shoes, innit?
Yeah, that was good. That was
posh,
good.
Innit?
Sometimes,
that was good.
Like, when he has some of the professors on or astrophysicists, sometimes I give them a miss.
Yeah.
Because it just goes over my head.
Well, the thing is with Rogan is
he
is intelligent beyond belief.
Yeah.
He is, because he is conversant, he can get on a level with these guys.
For some of the subjects.
Pretty quickly. Yeah. And he brings things to the table, and... You know, Joe Rogan's got this everyman kind of vibe about him, and that's what makes him sellable.
That's the appeal of it,
he's not, though. He's fucking not. I mean, look at him. He's a martial arts expert. He's a serious gym guy. He's hugely intelligent. He's become a cultural phenomenon on his own. So he's not an everyman, really. He's a polymath, isn't he?
But he's not. It's not intentional. He's just. It's pretty much the same now as it was when it first started.
Just slightly better production values.
Production values, and the guests have sort of varied and profiles gone up.
Yeah, and a few of his guests, I mean, is it Joey Diaz?
Yeah.
Brilliant, isn't he?
What a guy.
Well, you know, he's just talking about doing cocaine
because of him,
for
I
years.
listened to his podcast as well. It's fucking brilliant.
Yeah, he's really good.
Smokes weed, just what's up, motherfucker?
Well, yeah, I mean, that's the other thing about Rogan as well. He's very pro-marijuana.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like, it's really interesting, like, or he has right-wing people on or whatever. Didn't he have Ted Nugent on?
Yeah, he did.
He's a tosser, though, isn't he?
Not many people like him. Like it. I try and separate the music from the artist.
Yeah, look, I mean, you know, that's... If you can do that, that's helpful. I
still listen to Michael Jackson. One of my favourite all-time artists.
Jackson got a pass. He's been
the music's
given a
that
pass.
good, you can't argue with it.
Glitter, right? And them guys.
The music wasn't that good anyway, to be fair.
But, you know, people don't want to give up the Michael Jackson that easily.
No.
They're like, he probably is a paedophile, but, you know, I don't want to give up the music.
Yeah.
Because, let's be fair, like, you know, I mean, what's my favourite? I like Thriller.
Yeah.
Such a good album. So many brilliant tracks on it.
But certain bands, when something happens, they just pulled up their CDs and go, ooh, I better put that in the bin.
Yeah, absolutely.
What was that band where the singer had child sex offences?
It was Lost Prophets.
Lost Prophets, yeah.
Well,
gone.
I did a gig with the rest of the band about a year after all that had happened. They played at the venue I was working at under the guise of
Sound Patrol.
Yeah, No Devotion, they were called. And it was basically Lost Prophets minus Watkins because, he's doing what,
so they tried.
Years. There's about 200 people there. It was, it was an unremarkable gig, but they were lovely guys. And they were quite anxious to... I didn't bring it up, but when we were backstage, sat in the Immortal Green Room...
Yeah, of course.
They kind of alluded to it, and I was like, look, you know, you've been nice to me. I actually think they didn't know. Because, look, when you're off tour, Watkins can go and live in his castle. You He didn't speak to them for months. They would never know what he's been up to. They didn't know he turned into a crackhead who was getting into some really gnarly shit online. And I'm sure if they did know, they would have said something about it.
Of course.
I mean, he went out with Fern Cotton, didn't he?
For a while, yeah.
She didn't let on.
No.
Now, imagine how she feels about it.
Yeah.
But they were lovely guys, and I felt for them. But hopefully they saved their money.
Yeah, that's true.
Because they didn't. I think they'd sold 5-6 million,
something like that. Yeah. That last album just before that was.
Yeah, they were big in the States as well, and they'd done a lot of arena tours and stuff like that. So because the moment that happened, they'll never sell a record or get a penny from anything ever again for that.
Yeah, I remember being on a day off.
Over.
I remember being on a day off in Manchester. We went to I can't remember the music shop, but it's on loads of multiple levels. Huge stairs going all the way up.
The one where Sound Control used to be.
Yeah.
Yeah, Sound Control. A1 Music, it was called before that.
And there was a huge poster of Lost Prophets on the wall.
Shit.
Someone, there's loads of graffiti, and someone must have had to get step ladders to do some of this stuff, but it was just horrific. I was just like, oh my God. And that was just overnight, just gone.
Well, I mean, I read the court notes. Yeah, it's dodgy. It's serious shit, and he deserves to be doing 30 years, and that's the end of that. But they were nice guys that came.
So what did they end up doing? Have they all just sort of dissipated, or?
I didn't follow their progress after that. They certainly didn't come back as that band.
No.
There was 200 people there.
Yeah.
And that's great, good for them.
Not a bad number overall, but
when
you're considering what they were used to.
I mean, God bless them, they loaded their own gear into the van, they were doing everything, they were good guys. I got a great photo of the bass player, can't remember his bloody name, always got the photo outside.
Yeah, of course.
Me and...
Yeah,
you got to, don't
you? Must have a photo album full of them, have you?
Well, when Sound Control shut down, I put loads of pictures up online. I was like, holy shit, man, there was loads of stuff. And then someone said to me the other day, they go, oh, do you remember when, what's his name, Capaldi?
Lewis Capaldi.
Played Sound Control? I was like, no. When was that? I probably got smashed with him as well.
Well, there could be loads of people who you just didn't realise at the time.
All the high-profile ones, the really high-profile ones, I've got in my head, but for some reason, there must have, there was that many.
Yeah.
I was there for 3 years, and we had it off, and it was a very exciting time.
I thought you were a little longer.
No, 3-4 years.
When did it shut?
2 years ago.
2 years ago.
And I'd left about
a
a year or two before that because I went to another couple of venues around town, and we kind of did similar things, but Sound Control was the perfect alignment of, people were up for going to gigs. There was good bands that wanted to play that had followings. National promoters wanted to use the place. It was kitted out properly, and we had a good staff, operations and promotions. So we hit a good run, and it will never last forever.
Yeah,
especially because we were all fucking headbangers. We like to party.
Yeah,
it was like, if we'd have been really boring about it, it wouldn't have been as good a story, was it?
True.
But, it was quite cool. A band, let's say they're at the Academy and the venue's like, right, you've got to be out of here by midnight. And I'm like, well, look, you've had a long day. If you want me to stay behind, I'm a key holder. I'll just go and chill, have a drink in the bar or whatever, and you guys can have your showers, and then when your bus calls at 2 a.m, you can go. And the gratitude you'd get for things like that.
Yeah.
And the next thing you know, a few drinks come out, and the next thing you know, it's 5 in the fucking morning. And I've got smashed with Thy Art Is Murder, and their lead singer was like, "Yeah, I'm going to quit this band." And next week it was in Kerrang, and I'm like, he joined him again, bless him, lovely bloke. He just had this look. He was like, "Yeah, I've got to get up tomorrow, and I've got to do these interviews, and blah 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 blah." And I was like, "Well, you're in." And he was like, "I just want to be on the beach."
Yeah, well, it's that thing what we were just saying before, isn't it? It's what you're doing with what you really want to be doing.
Aussie guy, though, wasn't he? And it's like he's grown up on the beach, and I know a lot of dudes. And it's like, you've got to remember, this guy's from Australia. He's a long way from home in a cold
rainy
city,
Manchester,
a cold, rainy city. And luckily, I've shown him a bit of love. But a lot of the times, it's quite
harsh.
It's a lonely existence. And here's the thing as well: everywhere you go, it's someone else's Friday night, isn't it? Maynard said this in the Ministry documentary. I don't know if you've seen it.
No, I haven't.
Is it Just One Fix? It's about Al Jurgensen. Watch it.
Yeah.
Everybody watch it. Yeah, it's mental. He is mental. But Maynard says it's like the problem is for people who are prone to drink and drugs or whatever it is that you get off on. If you're in a band, it's a problem because every city you go, you'll have friends that come. It's their Friday night.
It's a new party.
They're there to party. It's a new party every night. And if you are, that's fine when you're young. You can handle that in your 20s, your early 30s, but trust me, when you've got guys that are getting into the late 30s and early 40s that are still carrying on like that, and further, then you're going to have problems.
Yeah.
You're not going to last very long.
No.
I mean, I don't think Pantera would have... There would have been problems sooner or later, because even Ozzy Osbourne was like, we've seen the home videos.
Yeah.
They were at it all the time.
Yeah. Well, Pantera, like, they always had problems with Phil anyway, didn't they? Always.
Yeah, that's true, actually.
I think he was the one who's like, without, if Dime hadn't have died, I think something would have happened with him. He would have.
Well, didn't Rex Brown's pancreas, like,
something like that,
explode or something?
Yeah.
I don't know what the word is. He's had, like, vital organ problems because of a lifetime of hard liquor, basically.
There's a few of them walking around now, you think, how are they still alive?
Probably because of, I don't know, yeah,
like
expensive doctors.
People were saying that with Lemmy for years.
I think Ozzy probably stopped doing it at the right time, and he's had Sharon Osbourne with a fucking broomstick up his arse for the past God knows how long.
Which is what's probably kept him alive.
Yeah, well, every night she's like, get on stage, keep the cash register ringing. I mean, how many times are they going to do a fucking farewell tour?
Exactly.
I mean,
but he's another one. What else is he going to do?
Die.
Yeah,
that's it.
Just keep him going, otherwise he's going to die.
yeah, very true. I mean, it's a treadmill, isn't it? It's like once you're on it, you kind of stay on it, and if you come off it, then I suppose you lose your match fitness a little bit, and difficult when you've lived that life. But what you were saying before, going back to the stadium bands, I don't know who's going to replace these artists, because
there's no sign of anyone at the moment, I don't think.
Bring Me the Horizon are the biggest of the sort of last. I mean, they're not a new band anymore. Let's get that straight.
It's basically anyone who's come up like 2005 post that. Like once the internet was already established and CD sales were sort of declining. Well, anyone who's come through since then.
You've probably answered it yourself there, haven't you? What has caused this?
It is the
internet. It's the fucking internet, isn't it? Because all of a sudden, people are into wildly different things. You've got 30 subgenres of metal, whereas being a metalhead in the late 80s meant, like Metallica and Slayer.
Yeah.
There
were no other way of like discovering hundreds of new bands, was there?
I mean, Deicide might come through town from time to time, but, that was for the fucking extreme people, whereas, you get Morbid Angel and bands like that now, they're bigger than... Not bigger than, I don't know. Do you know what I'm trying to say there?
I know what you mean.
There's more niche stuff to get into, so I think as a whole these audiences are dissipating. Or
there's just so much more now than there used to be.
Yeah, I mean, who could you say is going to be a stadium band? I would put Bring Me the Horizon couldn't headline Download, could they?
Not at
System
the moment.
of a Down. I mean,
But I mean, if you just like one fell sweep took away all of those older bands and just said, right now we need to replace them.
Do you know?
Would that not just happen?
K-pop. BTS. Have you seen BTS? Is it or BT? You can't pull it up, can you?
No.
Sorry, I was going to make that joke.
I've heard of BTS.
Yeah, they're the K-pop band. I watched a documentary about that. They sold out Wembley Arena like 3 nights in a row. It's Korean pop.
Yeah,
it is a phenomenon. It is a huge phenomenon.
Like baby metal or something.
Yeah, but this is different. This is like boy bands and girl bands from Korea. That so if you're asking me what the next like,
but is that moving around the world? Can they do that outside?
Yeah, they do it all over the world, and it is particularly. Have a look. Trust me on this, and we maybe talk about it next time.
Yeah.
Go, oh yeah, you told me about K-pop. Well, don't get me wrong, it's fucking terrible. It's not my cup of tea in the slightest. It's for kids, but if you're asking me who is the youngest band that I've seen headline a stadium recently, it would be them.
But like, say 10 years time, name me 3 Download headliners.
Well, there's going to be a few of them are dead, aren't they? So we won't. We can't go through AC/DC, Ozzy, and
even Metallica. Take them off the table.
Yeah, they got 10 years, maybe 5. They're still in good shape. Did you go to their shows?
Yeah, I went to the Glasgow one last year.
Was it good?
Yeah, it was really good.
Yeah, I bet it was.
They were on it. They were on it. I was impressed.
Yeah, they're brilliant, aren't they?
But I'm racking my brains to think, because the only thing I'm thinking is like those bands now who are at the top.
Oasis.
They all became famous.
If Oasis got back together.
Well, yeah.
Which
that's
I can't believe they've not done.
I think if they were going to do it, it would have happened by now.
Don't rule out a tax bill. It's all right when you've got loads of money to go, we'll never work together again. It only takes like a few mistakes for even Noel. Well, I mean, Liam wants to do it, and I get the impression Noel's. They're funny, aren't they?
They're just stubborn brothers, aren't they? They just won't talk to each other.
People still get their money's worth, though. Liam does his tours, but Liam's tours are almost Oasis shows anyway, because his solo material's fucking terrible. Whereas Noel, to be fair, I don't like his stuff, but his music post
you can
Oasis,
appreciate it.
Well, it's popular.
Yeah.
My mum's got a High Flying Birds album.
My
mum's into your music. You've cracked the mainstream, mate. I'm telling you. It's a little thing I've got. It's like if you get to Radio 2, like you've gone all the way through everything and you've landed on Radio 2 at the end of your career. You've done all right.
Yeah.
She come up to me one day. She was like, "Have you had a Rag and Bone Man?" I was like, "Yeah, he's made it." Do you know who he is? The "Has my mum heard of you" routine, because I was telling her about.
It is a barometer, isn't it, of exposure?
She didn't know who Drake was, though. I was like, like, yeah, I suppose Drake's hip hop now, isn't he?
Yeah,
He's a little bit. But like, have you seen how many Instagram followers Drake's got? 50 million.
What's that?
What? Yeah, funny guy, interesting guy. Didn't he come off a TV show?
I think so. Yeah.
He's an ex-child actor.
Yeah.
You know, I don't really listen to his stuff, but I think he's quite an impressive guy.
But yeah, fair play.
Well, he resurrected my favourite show, didn't he? You know, Top Boy, the Channel 4 show. Like, that Channel 4 cancelled it, and it was his favourite show, and he was like, no. No, so he took the idea to Netflix, and boom, 8 years later, season 3.
He did the right thing, didn't he?
He did. It's great. But, you know, good on him for that.
Anyway, before we get... sound control. So what happened in the end?
Well, the owner very cleverly bought the bricks and mortar. So when the developers came round, which, you know, sadly they do and are doing, and it's why Manchester is I don't think it's in a particularly good shape. It's not what it was. I hate to be that guy.
Is it going through a change?
Just people change. I don't. It's more bars and restaurants and, like, you know, the music venues. I don't know. There used to be a more lawless sort of underground vibe to town, and I don't know. It's just different. The 18 to 25-year-old kids aren't. They're doing their own thing, and maybe I'm not welcome to that party anymore, but I don't see what's going on. I think the Warehouse Project, sort of great event.
What's
great space. The Warehouse Project.
I'm not familiar with that.
It's the big, you know, they have all the big, like, drum and bass techno DJs.
Right, yeah.
It's the biggest, you know, that sort of led the way towards Manchester becoming very well known for that, which is brilliant because they're brilliant at it. But, you know, the Underground took a knock with that as well. So yeah, Sound Control got bought by developers for a tidy sum.
Just the building?
Yeah, well, my friend Andrew owned it, the guy that employed us all, and he basically said, yeah, pocketed a load of money.
Got a big offer, so...
Yeah, it was enormous. But, you know, he'd kept the place open for 7 years, 9 years, something like that. And he'd done good work, but it's a thankless job owning a music venue, or it can be, and it wasn't quite the goldmine that he thought it was going to be. We had good times, and he's done well out of it ultimately, but, you know, he said himself, he was like, if people were still coming in the numbers that they were, I might have thought twice about selling it.
Yeah.
And now it's Hull's Residence.
Oh, it's a shame.
Stacking up. It's that's Manchester, though.
It's weird walking past now and just going, I can't believe that's not there anymore.
It's got its place in the history of Manchester music. I'm proud of that. I think if any of us had worked there any longer, we probably would have ended up in an asylum or rehab. Because it was, you know, we partied hard, we worked hard, and we did party really hard, and that was fun. I wouldn't change any of it, but it's not the kind of thing you want to be doing in your 40s.
Yeah, it's a young man's game.
Yeah, if you're doing it in your 40s, you've got problems, and you might die soon.
It's usually, for most people, it's a phase of their life that they grow out of.
Yeah, I mean, don't be wrong, I still like to party from time to time, but I'm just glad that, like, it's not a Tuesday night and, you know, another band is like, hey, you know, you have a few beers? Oh, let's have a few beers. Next thing you know, it's 5 a.m, we're staggering out of there. They're like, great, we've got a show later today.
Yeah.
So yeah, it had its place, and it was a lot of people have got a lot of good things to say about it. So I'm proud of that. I'm proud that I gave a lot of bands the opportunity to play on a great stage. Started some careers, saw some bands. I would say we see the bands on the way up, or we catch them when they come back down again. So we had like some pretty decent bands come through that had been big.
Yeah.
You know,
I had your mate, Mr. Chubb on.
Oh God, yeah. I haven't seen him for a while.
What did he do? Micron, was it?
Yeah, he's techno. But he likes his metal as well. Yeah, good guy. I like Gary. I've not seen him for a while. I have to chase him up.
Yeah. Because he was with Sea Tickets, was it?
Yeah. No, Skiddle. He worked at Skiddle for a bit. Yeah. But yeah, he's a cool guy. But, you know, town's full of characters, isn't it? There's loads of cool people like that. And it's nice. It's the difference between London and Manchester. You can walk down Market Street and, you know, I'd be surprised if I don't see someone that I'm like, oh, right, how's it going? Yeah.
Yeah.
My girlfriend would be like, who's that? And I'm like, I don't know.
Someone that I kind of know.
And people come up to me and go,
someone that I used to know.
Yes, people have come up and gone, do you remember that time when we did this and we did that, sound control, blah, blah, blah? And I'm like, who are you? I'm sorry. I'm not being rude. I don't remember that. But, you know.
That's probably all the alcohol.
and the quantity of times that we did it as well.
Yeah, just a blur.
Well, that's the other thing as well. You've got to mind your mental health.
Yeah,
because
definitely.
Obviously when you are working in, and we'll be serious for a minute, when you're working in an industry where it's, you know, I mean, there's changes have been made, but it's rock and roll, isn't it, at the end of the day?
Yeah.
That's the bracket for it, and that implies, you know, there's people that do it are creative or free spirits and, you know, getting getting high or drunk or whatever can come hand in hand with that. And I don't think it's unfair to say that. And I've seen it affect people. I've certainly had to keep a very close eye on it from time to time. You know, there's been times where you're like, shit, I got drunk 5 times last week.
What am I doing?
you have to take a step back and go, it's too easy.
Yeah.
You know, that's the thing when you're getting up the next day and you're fine. That was the weird part of it. You know, I'd go out, we'd do this, and as long as I got 6-7 hours kip, you know, I'd be out and fine. You know, it's when you're just like brushing it off. That's when your body's kind of developing a bit of a worrying tolerance for it. And obviously, you know, then it can affect you mentally. You're not making your best decisions.
No, you're not being the best you.
You're tainted in a way. And like it's fun to do. Humans like to
have fun.
Yeah, switch the brain chemistry up, and you know, sometimes having a drink does. You come home from work and you're like, just have it. Just makes you forget a little bit. You can kick your shoes off, but you can also get that from going to the health suite or the gym or I'm a big advocate of the steam room and the sauna, like the health suite vibe. You know, the jacuzzi, the cold showers. So I go to gym. I keep a relative level of fitness up. Sometimes it's been more, sometimes it's been less, but I go to the sauna and the steam room twice a week without fail, and I have done for 10 years, and I think that's one of the reasons why I might have got away with everything that I've done.
Yeah.
Actually, have you got a tissue around here? You need to blow my nose. I've got a bit of a cold coming on.
Do one in there. He'll go and get one.
Do you edit this, or do you just put it out?
No, we just put it out.
Oh, brilliant.
We always have done. Yeah, but I know what you mean about mental health. I mean, people, like, especially now with social media, a lot of people have to, like, keep up an image. They've created this image of themselves, and then they have to sort of keep that up. And social media does not help with that.
I do it.
Well, yeah. I suppose we all kind of do it.
You become a brand of yourself.
Yeah.
It's the best version of you that you want people to see. But I do kind of like let people into my life a little bit more because I don't want people to be like, oh, you know, it's important to let people know that it isn't always perfect. And I think that resonates with people online as well. When you do open up and say, you know what, I was fucking down last week, and you know, or I'm feeling a bit like this, or like, you know, my drinking's been getting too much, or I've been living
But like, as a brand yourself, the best you is probably the real you.
True. But people, I think more and more, when they see other people sharing and being open, and I'm not being funny, someone like me who, you know, I'd probably come across as like, you know, someone that doesn't let that kind of stuff bother them. When I do say that, I think other people go, crikey, if he's being open about it, I can be. I
think more famous people, the higher they go up, have a responsibility to should do that every once in a while. To say, you know, I've had a bad day today, this has happened, or I feel shit, or I don't want to do anything, or I just want to go home, sort of thing.
Yep, I think that's...
rather than everyone being peachy all the time.
Well, you know, I mean, you look at all this Instagram influencer bullshit, and, you know, it can't be like that all the time, can it? You know, it would be easy for me. I suppose if you looked at my Instagram, it'd be like, oh, like, Robin just goes gigs and plays retro games and hangs out with Z-list celebrities, you know. But, you know, the truth is always far more complicated than that.
Yeah.
And like everybody... Yeah, cheers. Nice one.
The whole roll.
Yeah, I won't
No, but I know what you mean. But social media definitely plays a part in that. And I think people need to be a bit more real. Like, it's like with all the women with all the filters.
Well,
if you look at some, even men are doing it. You look at all their profile, and it's either a selfie, and it's just got these filter after filter after filter, and it's
not
just
me,
like,
pal.
No, I've never done that.
Not for me.
I don't understand.
Says me who had makeup put on for this interview. Just for the eyes, that's all it was. It's like, you look like a panda, don't you? People go up and go, you look really tired. I'm like, yeah, well, you mind your own fucking business.
It's just the way I am, all right?
Yeah. Like late night, you know, playing guitar till 5 in the morning, relearning how to do it.
We were talking about, well, before you were saying, before we started, about people should talk about stuff like this, like, more. And
it's a problem, isn't it? I mean, it's an affliction. Modern society is very fast. It's very demanding. People feel like they have to keep to a standard, whether it's, I don't know, financially or just to how they seem to other people. And it is it doesn't leave a lot of room for people that just want to, I don't know, how can I put it? It's a take no prisoners kind of society that we've got. It's like, you must do this, and it's, you know, no wonder mental health issues are going through the fucking roof.
Yeah.
Although, you know, I mean, it's easy to have a bad day and go, I've got anxiety or whatever. I mean, I thought for a while I might have depression, and I was like, no, I'm just getting drunk too often. You know, I knew I could fix myself. So for a while I was like, depression, just go for a run. until I really, really offended someone that actually had depression and was like, can you fucking stop saying that? Because it's a little bit more complicated than just exercising. But I wouldn't have known. We shared it, and I kind of backtracked a bit in a nice way. And I was like, I'm sorry, I didn't realise that. I just thought from my own experiences, and then I found out that there are people that are really struggling, and I've been there, but I can kind of get myself out of it.
Yeah. Some people just can't.
No, I think it's a brain chemistry.
It's the way you're chemically imbalanced.
Yeah, but then obviously if you are that way, you might be prone to self-medication or whatever, and that's something that only exacerbates the problem. That's like ever-decreasing circles, isn't it? It's like, okay, I'm not feeling very well, I'll have a drink. I'll feel all right for 10 minutes. Next day you feel worse. Yeah, it's a lot worse. But, I'm not surprised with the way that society is. I mean, look at the world we live in today. I wouldn't say it's hopeless because, we've got hot water and we've got roofs over our heads. Let's not lose perspective of the fact that we're still very blessed to be in a civilised society. But I see the people running the show and I'm like, how the fuck have we got to this? And this is what happens when people say voting doesn't change anything. Well, I got to tell you, all Boris Johnson's fans will go, voting doesn't change anything. Guess who's there at the fucking voting booth every single time, voting for him. It's us lefties that don't turn up, and that's why the bad guys constantly win. Voting doesn't change anything. Well, if you actually weigh up Corbyn and Boris Johnson, they're not very similar to me.
No.
They don't seem like all politicians are the same.
These TV debates are going to be interesting.
I'm surprised he agreed to it.
Yeah, I am.
Very surprised he agreed to it, because Boris Johnson's a blusterer, isn't he? He comes from a background
he's a bit of a bumbling.
Yeah, but he's been allowed to. No, he can bullshit all his life. Who's going to call him out? Have you seen what his actual name is? He's got like 6 names, hasn't he? These aren't real people, man. Jacob Rees-Mogg, they don't come from our background. They've got they've got no conception of it. So for people to sort of expect that Boris Johnson's going to do the right thing by a working man, well, he doesn't have a fucking clue.
When was the last time somebody did? I mean,
yeah, he's called Jeremy Corbyn. Yeah, he's all right. Look, I mean, say what you like about the guy. I just think that, like, if you put him and Boris Johnson in front of me, I'd be like, and I had to listen to them talk for an hour each or whatever. I just think Corbyn just comes across as a nicer man. He just comes across as a nicer person, and I don't like the landed gentry. I don't think that inherited wealth should put you in a position where you have power over other people. That's not.
What was this thing recently about changing the age for people in politics? Was it like they don't want to have a certain age group?
Old people vote for. Look, if we're going to generalise, old people kind of veer to the right, don't they? Okay. Younger people are idealistic. They're more into the idea of socialism, or Corbyn's policies or a Labour government's policies will seem more appealing to a younger person. They're more idealistic. They don't see, the problems with things. They only see the solutions. And I think that Boris Johnson knows this. If they lower the voting age and let maybe another 2 million people vote, well, they're not fucking Conservative voters.
Yeah, they've been talk about that as well.
They're not going to let that happen.
No.
Not yet. Not if he's got his... They know that, it's the 50s to 70s. I was on a flight to Portugal the other day, and, the Grey Hair Brigade were on there, and they're all reading the Mail and the Express. Have you read the Daily Express recently?
Not for a while.
No, okay. So if you really want to ruin your day, read it and despair that that's what old people are being force-fed every day. It is poisonous. It is.
I don't read any tabloids anymore, do you?
No, I don't. I've got a real problem with them, to be honest. I think that, for me, news should be sacred. The news should be presented as it is, not how
unbiased.
A billionaire wants you
with
to
no
think.
Agenda.
Well, it's interesting, isn't it? All these media moguls don't want like Brexit, or they don't want a Labour government because they just don't want to pay their fucking tax. That's it. They want to be in charge. These are the guys. It's the Barclay brothers and Rupert Murdoch. These are the people that call the shots, and that comes through in the outright poison that they spew out in most of the tabloid press. I mean, the broadsheets are not a lot better. I read the Times and the Guardian every day, and I read them because one's a bit more right wing and one's a bit more left wing. But you're still being presented the news in a
archaic way.
Well, it's a form. It's got an agenda.
Yeah,
it's trying to get you to look at it a certain way. So even the Guardian's going to try and get you to look at it in a more sympathetic left wing kind of way. But I'm more geared towards that, so I'll be more accepting of it. But I read the Times and I really enjoy it because the sport's brilliant. It's a great thing to read. But then Rod Liddell's in it, and he's a fucking racist. He made a joke the other day in the Spectator that they should put election day on a day when Muslims don't leave the house. you know, that's in a national newspaper, and everyone was like, God, didn't you know he was joking? It's like, well, you know, I don't think it was. No, he's not. I don't think he is. I think he's either
using that as a front.
He's trying to cause offence to get ratings or readers or whatever, and that's just as insidious. Or he does think that, and it's like, well,
he's double bluffing.
Yeah. Oh, did you believe it? Well, I was only joking.
Yeah.
Oh, you believed it? Yeah, well, that's what I secretly think.
It's going to be interesting, though, in like 20, 25 years when this old generation is gone and replaced by the next old generation.
Well, the problem is that, you know, they've not left much. They had all the benefits, didn't they? You know, houses were affordable. You know, it didn't used to be so hard to maybe sign on if you were unemployed. You didn't used to be so hard maybe to get ahead in life. And there's a lot of doors or drawbridges that have been pulled up for this younger generation. That means that things like owning a house or
get on the ladder, yeah,
getting that sort of stuff done, you've got to be on it early doors, and you've got to be really careful with your money, and you've got to make the right decisions. And they've got to pay so much to go to university as well, which they never had to do.
But like young people now, they're less. How many people are going to be able to get like 10, 20, 15, 25 grand for a deposit? How many people have that savings?
Yeah.
Or have a lived life that enables them to save that amount of money?
And as well as that, have a bit of fun as well.
Exactly.
You know,
yeah.
God bless them. They're allowed to mess about a bit before they try and do these crazy things.
Oh, those university, like the loans and that. Jesus.
Well, you know, I mean, and at the moment university or education becomes like a for sale thing, then all of a sudden, well, I don't see how that can work. It's like it shouldn't. You should get the same level of service everywhere. Yeah. You know, it's
a lot of pressure for young people to know what they want to do. Like, to dedicate 3 or more years of your life on something that's cost a lot of money. How many people know exactly what they want to do in their life when they're 21?
I think a lot just go for the party, to be honest.
Well, the first year, definitely. Definitely.
I don't know. I mean, I do know a lot of, you know, obviously I've worked with a lot of students over the past like 10, 15 years. You know, we had students, first year students, like our bar staff, say at Sound Control, was all first year students. So even as a 35-year-old man, I'm still sort of like, I'm friends, we have after work drinks, so I get to know them.
Yeah.
And, you know, they were hard-working, and they were good people, and a lot of them have gone on to do great things, and it's brilliant to watch because, you know, some of them do, you know, and I'm like, oh, yeah, that's my mate, I used to employ that guy. Now he does this or this girl, whatever, you know. So that's really cool. But, yeah, I don't know. It's the world is a changing place, and I feel it's more unpredictable than ever.
Yeah.
We're at a pivotal moment, I think.
We are.
There's definitely a polarisation to society, which is very worrying. And one thing that I've tried to do recently, you know, I've got a couple of friends whose views might be, you know, a lot of, not questionable, because I wouldn't tolerate racists, you know what I mean? But I've got a few friends that would qualify as right-wing or whatever, and I let them speak. And I try and, you know, meet them halfway on things. We've got to have grey areas. If we keep doing this, you know, this battle all the time, we're not going to get anywhere, and it could end badly. And here's another funny thing as well. I was in a shop the other day. There's a few people in a queue. It was some hardware shop down the road. You know, one of them shops that sells literally everything.
Everything, yeah.
Like, if I want an iPhone cable, I'll go there. If I want some rubber gloves, I'll go there. If I want some Rizzers, I'll go there. And there was 5 people in the queue, and you know, someone made a joke, and the next thing you know, we're all laughing. There was like a camaraderie of 5 complete strangers, and I just thought, you two, you might be a UKIP fan. You might be a Labour Party member.
Yeah.
And when you're online, you straight away like, this is what I think and you're fucking wrong.
Yeah.
And you'll go to war over it. And
team
nasty words will be said.
Mm.
When you meet people in real life, you don't walk in a pub and go, right, everybody, I'm a Labour supporter, so if anyone's got a problem with that, we'll fucking have it now, yeah?
Yeah.
That never happens.
True, no.
People are better in real life, and that is a problem, I think. Like, social media's got a lot of benefits, a lot, but it's also got a lot of drawbacks, and it's created a very corrosive interaction. Well, how can I put it? It's a corrosive environment for interaction for people that have got different, particularly of political opinions. It's become very difficult to get any kind of common ground, any kind of consensus of, you know, just operating on a level. But when you meet people in real life, there's that interaction that's there, and you can overcome these things. And people say, oh, you're mates with this guy, isn't he? A bit UKIP. And I'm like, I grew up with a guy, he's fucking sound.
Yeah.
He thinks the way he thinks, and
I
I'll
might
work
disagree
with
with some of the things he thinks.
I'll work
says,
with it. If he was an outright fucking bellend, he'd be out the door, no question. There are levels of acceptable, but just because he's, you know, all right, maybe he doesn't like immigration. Maybe he grew up in a town where it wasn't that great an idea. You know, I've got friends that live out in Bolton and places like that, and they're I'm lucky I'm a city centre dweller. Okay, so I'm a liberal guy. But, you know, when you go out into places where multiculturalism hasn't quite worked, people are warring. They're at war. They're battling each other. I have to at least say, well, that's why you've got a different perspective to me.
Yeah.
But ultimately, I just like to think that people are sound. It's the bell jar thing, isn't it? Like 80% of people are sound, and then the 10% on either side, the extremes. That's all there is. But they make a lot of noise as well. Don't forget that.
Yeah. Do you work with many women when in the industry?
Yeah, loads. Yeah,
through?
And I
think there's more now than there ever has been. Which is good.
I know many brilliant women who have got great jobs in the music industry. The main industry that I've worked in, that don't take any shit.
Yeah.
And no one even considers. It's not like, the production manager on the Spice Girls tour, there was two of them. One of them was a lady, and no one batted an eyelid. I think in maybe the 60s and 70s, some of these older guys might have had a problem taking their instructions from a lady, but I've got to tell you.
Well,
maybe I'm being I don't have the experience to speak, and I understand that there may still be an underlying. I've been guilty of it. I've been guilty of, maybe being a little bit patronising, or I was stage managing a gig recently, and there was a DJ duo, and I ended up talking to the man. I did it subconsciously.
Yeah.
Yeah, I admit it, I did it, and I then realised I was like, I clocked myself doing it. I literally walked up to the two of them and just started talking to the bloke. And if I'd have seen someone else do that, I'd have been like, and I'm not always like that. It was like a interesting default position. It was like, oh yeah, shit, I can be. You have to, it was in me to be a bit sexist like that.
I've got a friend who she interviews people is her job. She's just job profiles, people profiles. She interviews people on a regular basis, and she had an interview a couple of weeks ago. So it was her and a male colleague interviewing an older gentleman, probably pushing 60, and he never made eye contact with her once.
Oh, really?
And then it gets even worse. At the end of the interview, they all got up. He shook his hand and then walked out.
He's just a dickhead, then, isn't
It's
he?
just
You know what I mean?
I think that is it a generational thing? Because he was an older gentleman.
Yeah, I think we're seeing that becoming less and less of an issue, and certainly in terms of the industry that I've worked in.
The other thing was she's younger than him by about 20 years, so maybe had an issue. He maybe had an issue with that as well.
If that makes him feel uncomfortable, then it's him that's got a problem, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It's a sad state of affairs.
But I'm hoping that thing, like I say, this next generation that goes out in the next 10, 15, 20 years, it's going to be interesting. There's going to be a shift, isn't there? Surely.
They're growing up with different... They're growing up with things that we've fought, or certainly, let's say, other like minorities or groups or women or whatever have fought to get. They've grown up with them as the norm.
Yeah.
So their experience of life isn't a change, that's how it is.
Yeah, like
so
race and gender and all that stuff.
So they go forward thinking these things are normal and so on and so forth. But the problem is there are still people... and again, I'll talk about the newspapers. The media has got a bit of an issue with... divisive rhetoric, and I don't think it does society any favours. I don't think it does my nan any good to read the Daily Express every day. It's fucking poison. Have a read of it. Trust me, you'll call me up and you'll be like, I did not know that a daily publication that was sold in this amount of units was allowed to do this.
Yeah, and they've grown up with that.
Winding
they've always done that, yeah. Exactly.
Well, you look at the Daily Mail in like 1945, or not, sorry, it was the 30s, wasn't it, when they were pro-Hitler? Everyone seems to forget about that. They were like, oh, this dashing guy from Germany, he's doing good things over there. We should be more like him.
Wow.
Yeah, I know, crazy. And then he tried to kill everybody, didn't he? And that was another story. Again, it's Remembrance Sunday, by the way. So
it is today, yeah.
I do have a poppy knocking about. And, so there we go.
I've also got the...
Well, it's, incredibly important because, like, we're sat here, we're talking about this, that and the other, and there's a whole... generations and generations of young men and women. It's like, right, we're at war.
Puts things into perspective.
Massively.
Did you see, there was a story, I think it was last week, I think it was on Good Morning Britain, where millennials, use the term loosely, some of them are arguing that they don't need to learn about why should they care about what happened in World War I and World War II.
It's a fucking non-story.
It's
a complete non-story. They got some Burke who's online, and they basically got him to say that. Did you see him? He was a sitting duck.
Yeah.
It's like, let's get this guy on telly and wind up some old people.
God,
who cares if it's actually true?
Yeah.
As if kids think
that.
Look, history's interesting. That's the other thing. Like I wanted, when I was doing history at school, I wanted to learn about World War I and II.
I did.
And I think most people, unless you're a real, unless you're really into geography or whatever.
They were kind of lumping him in with the old, these reality TV stars who've got like...
Yeah, but they're not real people either.
Exactly, they're not. Like, what's the most famous one? What's his name?
Love Island.
Joey Essex.
Yeah, I get told I've been Yeah, you know when I had the more than
The
once.
hair.
Yeah,
Wow.
more than once.
But his like, you know, they don't know what they don't. Map of Britain, they don't know where half the places are. Stuff like that.
There's always been vacuous
those kind of people.
Mark, there's always been vacuous people, and the fact is that you can wheel someone like that out on fucking
And they do.
TVAM or whatever
And
it's
they
called,
do.
and go, God, look at millennials now. They don't know anything, do they? And they get this guy to parrot the lines, shove him off,
Yeah.
and it's like, and all of a sudden you've tainted a whole generation of people.
And do you know what? A lot of the time,
Outrageous.
why they do that is for content to put online that goes viral.
Yeah.
That's pretty much. It's sad.
This is the age
It's
that we're in.
sad.
It's like when real news or real things don't carry as much weight or importance.
So they get pushed aside.
Well, how can we glamorise this? It's like, do you really?
Yeah, because when that was on, underneath was like stabbings and job cuts and stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah.
Actual proper things that are going to affect life.
Yeah.
And we're listening to this fucking knobhead.
A mate of mine had an interesting theory that Katie Hopkins doesn't believe a word that she says.
Well, nobody else does.
Well, I mean, she's a horrid person, obviously, but her stick now is saying awful things.
Because
Not
that's
good
what got her noticed in the first place, wasn't
That's
it?
what got her noticed in the first place. So now, because you look at what she says, and it's like, God, could you be any more of an arsehole? And it's like, go on, all right, I'll try.
Yeah.
Because when she says these things, and that's her living. That's
That's what it comes down to.
if she decided she was going to be dead spiritual all of a sudden, and like, I've made a big mistake,
She'll be ignored.
all her fans, there's not loads of them, luckily, would be like, oh, right, fuck that then,
Yeah.
and she wouldn't make any more money. She's kind of like stuck down, and that's why Rogan's been pretty cool, because when it looked like he was going down that, I mean, I read a statistic actually, and the amount of people he's had on that are actually alt-right or conservative, it's fucking puny, man.
Yeah, they try and put he had more of these on than these.
The problem is he had Milo Yiannopoulos on, and he's a piece of shit, and he had him on Early Doors, and it became like that was when Milo was getting a bit of traction in the press before he kind of quite right. I mean, why should these guys get to talk at fucking college campuses?
Exactly.
I'm not being funny, right? He's like sat there going, "This is America today," and it's like, yeah, but you're an arsehole, mate. you're trying to spread division and hatred. And you do it under the guise of being homosexual because that makes it, like, oh, well, he's gay and he's still like this. It's like, nah, man, it's
He got
not cool.
deplatformed though, didn't he?
Look, right, Facebook's a business, all right? And if they don't want you on there, then they don't have to. Twitter doesn't have to have you on there. Although, actually, it was that Anthony Cumia that made the interesting point. He was like, when all of a sudden you're looking on Twitter for things like news and national government agencies use it to spread information about things like floods or fires or whatever, all of a sudden maybe it isn't a private company anymore and it has become a public service. Privately owned, but it's been used. The President of the United States uses it. Donald Trump
He uses it
Twitter
badly.
It's a hallmark of his presidency.
Yeah.
And it'll be interesting in years to come because, he's one of a kind, thank God. I mean, it's interesting that we've got to see it.
Yeah.
We got to see Donald Trump be president. It's lucky it's not our country, but it's fucking hilarious
Like if you
in
were
a way.
looking down on Earth now from afar and looking
knew
at
he'd
all
win.
the stuff that's going on, you'd be like, really?
Mate, I knew he'd win. Called it.
I kind of thought that he might.
Yeah. Yeah, you could see.
He
was tapping into
he taps.
something.
I was just going to say that he taps into a certain
And obviously,
demographic.
as has been discussed many times, Hillary Clinton was a appalling candidate.
She's
and,
a horrific alternative.
well, I mean, apart from the conspiracy stuff about her, which may or may not be true about people that might have been clipped off there and bills say so, apparently she's not a very nice person.
No.
The Secret Service people that have worked for her are all like very damning of her as a boss, as a human. So
and when you see footage of her like fainting all the time, and you can't even.
well, that wasn't ideal for her either, was it?
The
But,
timing
I mean,
was off.
Donald Trump's probably a like.
How
What is
old
it?
is
Is it Adderall? They're all on in the States.
Adderall, yeah.
Yeah.
Is he like? He's in his 70s or is he
72.
70? Jesus.
I think he'd look a lot older if you. His hair does like three directions.
Yeah. Like, well, I don't know what's.
It's a double comb over, double, and then he uses a full can of hairspray to hold it in place.
A day.
Yeah. Well, have you not seen the picture where the wind's blowing the back of his head?
Oh, yeah.
And he looks like a Bond villain. No, he looks like Mad Max 2, the Great Humongous.
Yeah.
The back of his head
I
when
did
you
see
see
that.
it, it's like a couple of strands of hair and like pasty white. Yeah.
But like you get pensioners running the country, and it's just like it's a bit scary.
Yeah, I mean, Bernie Sanders is no spring chicken, but
I don't suppose there isn't an ideal age, but you don't want someone too young, and you don't want someone too old.
you need the experience, but you don't want to be. You basically. I think like 55, 60's a good age, really. I mean, David Cameron was quite young, wasn't he? But
everyone's also so shocked that they've done stuff in their past. And like, yeah, they're human. Like, what do you want? Robots?
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
well, obviously, it's their opposition using it to like discredit them.
well,
but
the reality TV whitewashed Trump, didn't it?
yeah,
That gave him because a lot of the younger people that were watching The Apprentice didn't realise he'd been a complete arsehole in the 80s to loads of black people, and you know he was known for what is it? This is he's been a piece of shit guy. That's it. You know, he's just a knobhead, isn't he? But then obviously, because in The Apprentice he's kind of funny.
yeah, he's got a bit of charisma about him.
You know, and if you watch old interviews with him, he can come across as quite a likeable bloke. So when you've whitewashed his personality to that degree, and then he runs for president, you've got loads of people that probably don't know he's that much of a dickhead. They just think he's the great guy off the telly that sorts everyone's businesses out. He's come to save the world.
Do you think he'll get a second term?
Yeah. Yeah, 100%.
Because
Only because the Democrat vote always gets split. And they can't settle on a candidate because obviously the Bernie Sanders people quite rightly want him in, but they're like, it's him or fucking nothing. And then obviously people like, is it Elizabeth Warren?
Elizabeth Warren, yeah.
Is all of a sudden, you know, it's very difficult for them because Donald Trump has got a very specific message to a very specific demographic of people, whereas the Democrats are trying to pick up all the other people who disagree on loads of different things.
Yeah.
Whereas your average Donald Trump fan just doesn't really like foreigners very much.
Well, yeah, he just used his whole Mexican wall as his campaign, didn't he?
Yeah. It's brilliant the amount of lies he tells and never gets caught for it. But anyway, politics aside, you know, that's another facet of like modern life that I think makes people ill.
Do you think younger people are as interested in politics?
It's a bigger thing now than it's. Politics didn't used to be a sport like it is now.
But like people like Trump have sort of added to that, haven't they?
Yeah,
because people are interested in him, whatever.
Farage, Johnson, in his own inimitable way. I mean,
like what they're saying. What was I reading? The next, everyone wants Dwayne Johnson to run for president.
I don't think he'd be a bad guy. Actually,
no, I don't think.
I actually really like him. You know, I don't think he's as raving a xenophobe as Trump. I don't think he's. I think he's conservative with a small c, like Arnie was.
Yeah,
Arnie was great.
Yeah,
if he was president now, vegan, you know.
Is he?
Is he? Did I read that? You have to check that.
Wouldn't surprise me.
I think he is. I saw a video where he's showing his vegan diet.
Well, you know, all it's going to take, right? And you know, I actually had a full year of being vegetarian, and I've lapsed. I won't lie. I'm admitting that now. Not to a great extent. Like I'm eating meat but once people realise, once sportsmen realise that maybe being vegan will give them that edge, it'll change the world. Because it all of a sudden taste will go out the window, tradition will go out the window. It's, can I get an extra 1%? Can I get an extra year of life? Will I look better for longer? Once it becomes apparent that having that lifestyle can make these things happen, that's when it will really, really take off. And having someone like Arnie back it, and also there's a few Premier League footballers doing it now.
I was going to say, you know what they have with all their nutritionists and their sports scientists. Once one of them cottons onto it, if it's proven to have a difference, they'll all be doing it, and it'll be the next thing.
Hector Bellerin, the Arsenal player.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, he's not a world beater of a player. He's a decent international pro, but he's fully vegan, and there's going to be more of that. I don't think that's a very bad thing at all.
No.
I'm look, as I've experimented with vegetarianism, and I'm going to get a bit of stick off a couple of my mates for this. I think that there is a place in the food chain for animals. I do believe that now.
I agree.
Because, I know this sounds terribly cack-handed, but it was clumsy to say, but when you cook an animal, it tastes of meat. Evolution would suggest that, like, at some point they're meant to be a food source. What I disagree with is the cruelty. The industrialised farming, and the fact that like meat has become such a throwaway commodity that, like, you know.
Well, it's like us going to the supermarket and just buying a packet of meat, and you have no thought you have no idea. You just what it was. Meat, I'll eat that.
What it is, yeah.
You have no idea the journey that animal took, or how it died, or
mate, the Asda chickens. How can a fucking chicken cost £3? How? I mean, £3 for a thing that's been reared, and all it came down to at the end was £3. It's like there's got to be something wrong about that. Like, you know, you ought to be spending a tenner on your chicken. It's got to be some big, you know, it's been lifting weights. Yeah. It's had a good life, you know.
It was vegan.
Maybe. Or what's that Japanese stuff they give them beer, don't they? Is it Kobe beef? Yeah. They have their own hotel rooms and stuff like that, don't they?
Of course the Japanese do. Of course they do.
You know, they go out on dates, and then at some point when they're not looking, someone just comes up and done. Boom, out. Lights go out. No problem with that.
I'll never give up meat.
It's look, I've got to tell you, the year that I didn't eat it was very beneficial. I lost weight easily. I felt lighter, faster. sadly, I just quite like chicken. I won't eat red meat again. And I had a steak the other day. I'll never eat steak again. I just realised I was like, what's the point of fucking steak? Right, it doesn't really taste of anything. You've got to put loads of stuff on it.
Yeah, and when it does taste nice, it's the really expensive stuff.
Yeah,
really expensive stuff.
I'm like, and it can be very tough. And I just thought I can live without that.
I have actually given up alcohol, not permanently, but I've had 2 months now and I haven't had a drink just because I just felt like it. I was just getting to the point where some nights I would have a couple of pints and the next day I'd feel a bit, I'm like
fuzzy.
Yeah, it's like,
yeah.
I didn't really need to have those 2 pints. It
what's
didn't
that,
help me. Yeah, and it's just
5 times a week. There's 50 quid.
So I'm just like, I just stopped. And like, people come, my friends like, so you still coming out then? It's like, well, I don't require alcohol to have a good time.
No, that is a thing. Once you can get your head around that, you can have a really good time. And
Yeah.
I found driving. If you're all going out, offer to drive.
Yeah.
And the great thing is you don't get bored because you know you can leave at any time.
Yeah.
You've got it in the back of your mind. You're like, because, when you go out and you end up drinking more because you can't be asked going home. You can't be asked getting the bus in the cold or getting a taxi, so you stay out. When you've got a motor and you're sober, you're just like, right, who's coming? That's it.
Yeah.
That's cool. I'm getting in the car. I'm going to drive home. Have a cup of tea when I get home. Get in bed. That's nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. I could do a bit of that maybe.
Just try. Well, I just thought I'll have a week. I'll just do a week without it. Then it just went to 2 weeks. Then it went to 3. Now it's been like 2 and a bit months.
We'll keep going with that.
Yeah, I'm not missing it.
Keep going with that.
I'm not missing it at all.
Well, it is poison. Alcohol is poison. It is. I've had a mate who was a nurse, and I rang her up one day. I was sick as a dog, and I was like, I think I've had an allergic reaction to alcohol. She was like, you've just drunk. She said, what did you drink last night? I said, well, I had a bottle of white wine. I had 4 cans of this, a couple of shots of that. And she was like, you had a lot. And I was like, that's not a lot. At that stage, I thought that wasn't a lot.
Jesus.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, crazy, innit? And she was like, you've poisoned your body. That's what you've done. You've got alcohol poisoning. That's what being drunk and hungover actually is. So taking all that out, mate, it's not a problem at all. I mean, I still smoke the odd cigarette.
I've been sleeping way better.
Have you?
Yeah, just
what are your dreams
much
like?
better. I never remember my dreams.
No.
When I was drunk, I used to remember my dreams more. I was going, what the fucking hell was that all about?
when you give up smoking weed, like all of a sudden your dreams become glaringly real again, to the point of almost night terrors at times, super vivid. But that's just in a acclimatization to having done something for so long, then it being taken away from you.
I haven't smoked weed for 10 years now.
I'm not saying anything live on air, but there is a place for it.
Yeah, well, it just used to make me very unmotivated and lazy.
You know what?
It wasn't for me.
I find...
and I was already battling that anyway, so it just made it worse.
There you go.
So...
It's like anything, isn't it? If it's not working for you, don't do it.
Yeah, exactly.
What's the point? If it's not making you feel good and it's not what you consider to be a benefit to your life, then it's kind of got to go.
It's the same with people in your life.
As you get older, you've got to be a bit more cynical about it.
Ruthless.
Yeah, I hate to say it. It's like, don't get me wrong. I've got time for my friends that fall down, and same for me. Like when I've hit a rough time, but ultimately, once you've given the best help that you can and the best advice that you can, or if someone's vibe isn't conductive to your life and is actually holding you back, they got to go.
Yeah,
sad to say it. Then that's not to say that you've got to be cruel initially.
No.
People have ups and downs in their life, and that's part of being a friend to someone. But ultimately, you know yourself when it's the right thing to do.
Definitely.
And,
yeah.
There it is.
Going back to marijuana, do you think it'll ever be legal over here?
If the Conservative government could do it, think of the money. The only thing that's stopping them is the societal expectation of their voters. I think it should be. I think it will be.
Because we're a bit behind America, and we're still in the medical research kind of. It's talked about being allowed at first for medical use,
which I do agree with.
Yeah, of course. But that's what America did. They did all the research. First it was medical use, and now they've started just legalizing it.
Yeah.
To where you can just go to a shop and buy it. So they get all the taxes and...
What a bonus.
Yeah.
What a benefit to society. Because, if we think about it, how much money's lost to the black market every week for, like, cocaine and weed. We're probably approaching some sort of recession. I see less money out there. I see less people spending. Jobs are paying less. Food's going up. If people were able to do that and you could get the tax money from it that's being lost to the black market economy every week, it's got to be... Imagine how many people buy cocaine every weekend.
I know.
Billions and billions of pounds that is disappearing into a hole in the economy somewhere.
Yeah.
And that's great because, to be fair, at least drug dealers spend it. There is that. At least that money goes back into the economy in like cars and houses.
That's
and
true. That is true.
But you drinks in bars, you know what I mean? Whereas like, your average dickhead billionaire's just stashing it away in the Cayman Islands for the sake of it.
Yeah.
Which I really don't get. I mean, Bill Gates, was it Bill Gates said the other day? He's worth £108 billion, right?
Jesus.
Okay. And he said, I don't mind paying 10 billion tax. I don't mind paying 20 billion. But, if you're taxing me 100 billion, I might have to count how much I've got left. It's like, 8 billion, you fucking knob. Like, have you any idea how much a billion is compared to... The problem is with a million and a billion is the fact they sound the same. They are not the same. A million's like that, and a billion is that.
Yeah.
Okay? We're talking like and to have a billion... What is it, like 108 billion? It's like, holy
But didn't they do a thing about him... They've totaled up how much his foundation's done for various causes all over the world. It's
fucking what?
It's getting into the billions.
So what? Like philanthropy
But
shouldn't be a thing.
Their point was that he's sort of sacked off a Microsoft thing, still getting a shitload of money.
He could
but
solve
he's
world
using
hunger.
That. Yeah, but they were arguing that is what he's trying to do.
With the pennies out of this.
But like, who else is doing anything?
Well,
in his position,
if people like him paid the taxes, this kind of thing wouldn't actually be necessary.
But more people in his position could do stuff like that.
More people in his position should do, and if they did, we wouldn't have things like child hunger and worldwide poverty. Like that amount of money could solve it all in a day.
Yeah, that was it. The top 1%. That's where all the money's at.
Look, there's if you've got 30 billion. I read the thing the other day. It's like if you worked every day since Jesus Christ was born and you run £2,000 an hour, you still wouldn't be as rich as the richest 26 people in America.
Jesus.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous.
I'm not a communist, but there's no need for that.
No.
And to get that amount of money, you've definitely fucked a lot of people over along the way. Jeff Bezos, he's a very wealthy man. It's his warehouses that keep getting pulled up in the news for, like, inhumane working conditions or, like, at the very least, working people to the fucking bone. When's enough? And this is the problem. The wealth is all going up. And it'll keep going up until like the workers can't afford to buy anything anymore.
Yeah.
So how's that
crash?
Well, how does it work? It doesn't work, does it? But that's greed for you. And the problem is that I think a lot of people think that like people like Bill Gates are benevolent and whatnot. And it's like if they were, he wouldn't be sat on £108 billion. He would have used that money to change the entire planet.
And there's a lot of people who could get together and all do that and do us all a favour.
Yeah. They don't want to.
Yeah.
They don't want to. In fact, sometimes you wonder whether they're just waiting for us to die out so they can have the world to themselves.
Yeah, I was reading the other day that part of the reason why like electric cars and all that technology hasn't come through much yet is because the government are holding on to for their life to fuel. Yeah, the tax on fuel and everything.
Yeah, of course they are.
Until it's physically not possible to make any more money, then they'll suddenly switch over to electricity because they have to.
That's when we'll come through the fucking front doors, mate. That's when the power will drop. I'm ready. I'm definitely ready for that. No, I just feel like, it's a monopoly, isn't it? And it's like when you know that companies like Shell Oil or whatever have doctored reports about the damage that they're doing to the environment to make more money. It's like, well, if there is a hell, and I don't think there is, that's definitely the first person that should be going there.
Yeah.
To do something like that, it's like, wow, I'll decrease the lifespan of the Earth so that my shareholders are happy this month. It's
ridiculous.
It's outrageous.
It's like
when
BP tried to underplay the damage that they did with that oil leak a few years ago.
There'll be a thing. Youth from Killing Joke said that in 20, 30 years' time there'll be crimes against the environment. When people finally get to grips with this, and when maybe the next generation come through and go, what the fuck have you guys been doing here? You've been almost drilling into the earth. Boris Johnson only said he's not doing fracking till the election's over.
Yeah, of course.
And I'm not being funny as well. The reaction to fracking is what happens when the posh people get involved. Because they wanted to do it in some posh people's backyards. And all these, like, nice old people come out that the police can't kick the shit out of off camera. They're not students. They're not Extinction Rebellion types. All of a sudden, they had to be taken seriously, didn't they? Because they're fucking conservative voters, those people. When they object to fracking, they, Saying that, though, I've read loads about fracking actually not being that bad. Read loads about it. Apparently, like, what was it? The earthquake would be like if you're walking through London and you feel an underground go underneath.
Right.
Quadrilla will obviously say that.
A lot of the debate was about where they do it as well.
Yeah, agreed. But, there's that Australian thing, isn't there, that went viral where people are talking about fire coming out of the taps and stuff like that. Do you remember? And it looks really bad. And I'm sure what they're saying is that if it's done safely, it's actually a brilliant form of energy. Yeah. But we shouldn't need to be doing that, really.
It's a better alternative than a nuclear power plant.
Yeah, but I mean, as you said yourself, we've got solar power and wind power and stuff like that. And I'm
it's
sure...
all there. It's all there.
Well, have you noticed a lot of houses have like in council estate areas have now got
solar panels on the roofs.
yeah,
and that.
that's
Yeah.
quietly been done, hasn't it? It's like, oh, I thought that didn't work. I thought you were saying that it didn't work. Obviously works.
And like every village or town would have like a wind farm in a field at the end of the village.
Imagine.
Every street could be self-sufficient. Takes the
Imagine.
strain off the, all the power plants. We don't need them.
A lot of people don't get their brown paper envelopes if that happens, though, Mark.
Well,
and that
that's-
is the
of
big
course, of
problem.
course.
Corruption and, the endemic corruption in society and the need for things to be done a certain way so everybody gets their little bit is what's stopping real progress
Exactly.
with
It's
society.
obvious. It's obvious.
Well, we all know it. The massive
Otherwise,
slip,
we
doesn't it?
would be much further down the line with a lot of things.
It's difficult, though, because, what the Extinction Rebellion people want is, it's unattainable. 6 years to change the entire culture of the world business. Well, I'm up for it, but it's not me that makes these decisions, is it?
It's timescale as well. You can't things just don't happen like that.
Yeah,
do
we
they?
can't all go to this, like, what is it, like some sort of community farm-based society.
No.
I think technology will have to come along at some point and right some of the wrongs that we've done in terms of like environmental damage.
Yeah.
And that's something that we can always be hopeful about because, as much as like we decry modern society, there's still amazing things going on, technological advances, stuff like that.
I do have faith in the younger generations coming through that
Yeah, me too.
they'll have a bit more compassion and they'll think about things a bit more and do their own research and form their own opinions and not just jump on bandwagons.
They might not think I'm cool anymore, the little fuckers. But,
Doesn't matter.
No.
I think you're cool. I think you're cool.
You know what I mean? I'm looking for validation off, like, when you go to the gym and there's like, you're like doing your thing and there's like some younger dudes and you're like, shit, I hope I don't look like, you're kind of like, look, guys, I can do
Look
this
at the old
too.
man.
Yeah, look, still got it. I know what grime is.
Just check out some young people's terms.
No, I actually do really like it. It's one of my
Fair enough.
favourite things. One of the great things about being involved in the industry that I've been involved with is that I'm always privy and party to, the next movements. Because, for example, when we were at Sound Control, we had like younger acts coming through that were massively popular that I'd never heard of.
Yeah.
And it was a real good exposure to a lot of different things that I would not have got if I just sat in and listened to my records and, read Metal Hammer every week or whatever. Still a good magazine.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's definitely they're great. I'm hopeful, and the fact is that if Boris Johnson doesn't want 16-year-olds to vote, they must be all right with me. If they don't like him, they're all right with me.
But isn't it funny now, like, all over the world there's people with like millions and millions of followers who we've never heard of.
Yeah.
And like the hugely famous people, like
YouTube,
that never used to
mate.
happen.
YouTubers,
Never, yeah.
like, when you, like, my girlfriend's daughter's 8 years old, and like she's into things that have got millions and millions of views that I've never ever heard of,
Yeah.
and never will, unless like it's being presented to you like that.
Well, I only just recently discovered this Logan Paul versus KSI fight. Was that last night?
Yeah, now I've been onto this for a couple of years, but they're just a couple of prats off the internet, aren't they? That are gonna have a fight.
Do you know True Geordie, the True Geordie podcast?
No, I don't know that.
He's a massive guy. He's
Okay.
a podcast that's got very popular. He's had loads of people on. But he's massively into YouTubers, so he's been talking about. So I
Okay.
only know it through that podcast.
Yeah, I mean, it's a brilliant phenomenon.
And he went on the stage and did the weigh-in.
All right.
Big, huge guy with a shaved head. He's very intimidating, but he's such a nice guy.
Okay.
But that's how I've got into the whole thing. And I was just
Okay.
like, I looked them up and I was like, my God, these guys have got just millions of followers. And I was like, what do they do?
They've utilised, the technology.
the next
they're
yeah.
the next generation of people to take what's on offer and go with it. It's like, and I've said it, we're pre-digital. Like,
yeah. We're the last me and you are the last generation that remember all that.
pre and post.
We'll
Like,
be telling stories to people like, oh, shut up.
Well, it's like, now you've got kids that are of the internet era. Adults that are
Yeah.
of the internet era. They've grown up. Been
always
born.
been there.
It's always been there in their lives. Now, me and you remember dialing up a phone, you know what I
Going
mean?
to a fucking payphone at the end of the street.
And how different was society?
Yeah, there was
Do you
lots
remember
simpler.
like when Sunday shops weren't open?
Yeah, I do remember
You
that.
go to the
yeah.
high street and it would be fucking dead. There'd be no people on the roads. And, I suppose I have fond memories of all that. But
Yeah,
on the
I do
other hand,
too.
it is quite good to be able to go to Tesco's on a Sunday and do your
At
shopping.
10 o'clock and just get whatever you want.
The world's changed, man, and like you can either fight it or you can go with it and try and understand it. And I try and understand it as it goes along. I'm still prone to that old man shouts at windmills thing. From
It's
time to time,
natural.
and I have to check myself and go, don't be that fucking guy.
Yeah, don't be that old
Don't
twat.
be that guy. Is it the kids that are right? No, it's the kids are wrong.
Kids are always wrong.
Yeah. So
But
it just gets a bit harder as you get older to sort of like keep your finger. And I shouldn't really know what they're up to. Maybe I'm moving into the era now where I do go to a Dire Straits gig, and
you're not meant to.
I suppose.
Especially in today's society, there's so much going on. You just got to worry about your own stuff at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Look after yourself.
Just be nice to the people around you. I think that's all you can do. And it's like I was saying before, like in internet interaction. I believe it or not, I'm quite prolific with the social media. I can't help it. I've got a big mouth. I need an outlet.
But the other thing is, you do interesting stuff, so that's worth posting about.
I appreciate that. Thank you. And I'd like to think that I've got something to say about like modern issues, politically,
exactly.
Mentally, stuff like that. Sport. I like my sport. I'd like to think that I bring something to the table in that respect. But I've really been thinking about knocking Facebook on the head.
Yeah.
Like our mutual friend Matt Jones, Twisted Illusion. Matt Jones did. He just went, I've fucking had enough.
Yeah.
I've had enough of it. It's doing my head in. It's making me. Now I'm not. I just think it's a case of not waking up and immediately checking it, having that hour where you don't check it, and then when you're checking it, not getting wound up by things.
As I've said before, I've turned all my notifications off.
Not a bad
so thing. I only check it. I have to open it up to check it.
You've got an outlet.
Yeah, this is the reason.
This is
the reason
cool.
To
You
do
know
it.
what?
Yeah.
And this is why I'm hoping to get a bit more, remove myself from the sort of business side of the very low level of the music industry I've been working in, admittedly, and get back into the creative side, because clearly I need it. There's something inside that needs to be said, and having something like this must be a real boost. It must be something to really look for. Yeah, I bet it looks like really. And congrats again on the setup, man. This is really cool.
No worries, man.
Yeah, definitely. A 2-hour drive was nice today as well.
It's a beautiful place up here.
I would move here, Penrith. Maybe that's
Lake
another
District.
thing about getting old. I was looking at those houses and just thinking, isolated.
Yeah. Well, I come from the city. I come from Newcastle.
Yeah, you do, don't
That's
you?
where I'm from. But I wouldn't want to live there. I like going there, but I wouldn't want to live there.
Newcastle fan?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been there twice.
No, I have no choice.
No, there's only one team in that city, isn't there? They put the away fans up on the moon, though. It's difficult.
They do.
It's, good fun. I've never been out there. It is a trek. It's cold as well.
It's always cold.
Yeah.
Those always fans with the tops off.
I don't know. I remember summers being so much sunnier when I was younger.
Here we go to old man mode now.
I know we had that heat wave when the World Cup was on, but like summers used to be like that.
Well, you don't get your seasons as much anymore, do you?
It's all like one grey mess.
I
Isn't it?
remember,
Is that just Manchester though?
No, it's everywhere.
Right,
I remember a few years ago having a green Christmas and a white Easter.
Mental.
That was about 4 years ago.
Well, yeah, I remember White Christmases like 10 years ago.
It was guaranteed pretty much every year.
Yeah. Good snowstorm, it was great. And now it's like, Christmas Day sometimes a no jacket day,
The sun comes up in a blue sky. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah, bit mad that. Still love it though. Love Christmas.
What? Yeah.
It's it's just you get that time of year where you're allowed to just sit about. It's nice. There's no pressure.
Yeah.
There's nothing. No one can bell you up on Christmas Day and be like, where's this thing that needs doing? Or
yeah, there is something about that. It's just guaranteed quiet time.
Yeah.
Just friends and family.
The ability to switch off is a brilliant thing, and I found
I think
as I
that's
get older,
an issue for a lot of people these days.
Well, you're constantly attacked. There's always, there's Facebook, there's Instagram, there's this, there's that, there's a telly, there's always something, and then it's like, shit, I've got work next week, I've got to think about this, and
yeah,
this.
like that was my thing for turning my notifications off, was so I could concentrate on other stuff.
Yeah,
because it's not pinging and it's not popping up. If it's not there, out of sight, out of mind.
Yeah. And
then the next thing I did was I've got an app called Evernote, which allows you to do lists.
All right.
And tick stuff off as you've done it.
That sounds good.
So I try and obviously we've all got shit that needs doing. Some of it's big stuff, some of it's little stuff. But I sort of categorise it in lists and I tick stuff off as I've done it. And even if I've just done a couple of things a day, I feel much better that I've got stuff done.
Well,
because if you keep putting stuff off, it builds up and you think, oh shit, I was supposed to do that.
And then you get a brain fog. All of a sudden you're spinning 20 plates and you're running from end to end and you're like, shit. Yeah, there's got to be a more methodical way to do things.
So sometimes in the morning, if I've got a lot of stuff, I'll go, right, today I'm going to do that. I don't really want to do that, but I'm going to do it because if I do that...
That's the one you've got to do first.
I'll feel like I've done... even early doors, I've done
Eat
that.
the frog.
The rest of my day feels much better because
Eat your vegetables first,
yeah,
innit?
stuff
like,
like
do
that.
the thing you don't want to do first and you can enjoy the rest.
What's he called? Peter, the guy who was on Joe Rogan. Peter, the clinical scientist.
Oh, no, I don't.
What's he called?
Peter. No, I don't.
I
No,
mean.
you've lost me. Not astrologer. Not astrologer. What's his name? Not Cox. Not
Peterson.
Brian Cox.
Peterson.
Jordan Peterson.
His motto is clean your room.
Interesting guy. And do you know what? I think he got a bad rep for a little while. And I think he probably has said a couple of things that, all right, a little bit right wing or whatever, but he got lumped in with the alt right movement.
People love lumping people in with people. They just
and I was unfair about this guy, and I have to say that he does present a sort of guideline to life that, all right, we don't all want to be in the fucking army or whatever.
It doesn't apply to everybody, but...
No, but he does talk a lot of sense about how to stabilise things when they're going wrong.
Yeah.
I put it this way, my respect for him has gone from less than zero because I got told, you know.
You didn't listen to him enough.
I didn't really listen to it. I just heard that fucking voice as well.
Yeah, he does have quite an annoying voice to some people.
Well, okay, it's like, fuck off. Fucking tell me what to do.
The main thing that resonated with me was the clean your room thing, which was just basically start. You can't do anything if you've got clutter everywhere. You just can't. It's just chaos.
State of your house or your flat is a state of your mind.
Sort shit out and then go from there.
Yeah.
And it's just doing that first step is probably the hardest bit. Getting started is the hardest thing.
One small thing triggers off the next and the next and the next. And it's like they say, ask. You want something doing? Ask a busy person.
Yeah.
You know, like I say, when I'm not doing anything, I'm terrible. I'm lazy as hell. When I'm working really hard, that's when I'm taking more things on and doing them.
Yeah.
Like, I started my first band when I was doing 10, 11-hour days tarmacking drives.
Yeah.
If I was doing that now, I'd just come home and pass out. But obviously,
yeah,
I was lucky I was in my 20s, and because I was busy and I got into it, I'd come home and I'd be like, right, band practice tonight. We're going to do this. And I'd be going to bed at midnight and waking up at 6. But I was doing it. I was busy, and it didn't seem like... And then when I got a day off, I'd be like... Let's use this productively too.
Yeah, exactly.
And when you've got because I've kind of the work I do means that like I'll make a big lump of money here and then I've got no work for like 3 weeks. Very rarely get anything good done in them 3 weeks. By the end of it, I'm probably not even going to the gym and I'm just sat in the flat fucking smoking fags and drinking coffee and watching Netflix. And I need that work to kick in again to sort of get me back into, self-motivation is a very difficult thing. And if you know that, then you've got to utilise other things to get motivated. And if that means having somewhere to be every day at a certain time, then, all right, it's not ideal, but that's what I do.
Yeah, well, there's certain like books, documentaries, films, there's all sorts of stuff on YouTube, stuff that can help you. Even like podcasts. There's loads of podcasts out there that deal with various subjects.
Hypnotism, mate. I've tried that.
Have you?
YouTube hypnotism.
Wow.
Just put like guided... I was going to sleep listening to like Tool and stuff like that. Oh, yeah, I'll get to that in a sec. And like, you'd wake up half an hour later, like, sweating. And I'm like, yeah, Tool, like, it's wicked, and I do, like, the subliminal kind of, like, vibe of listening to music, like, when I go to sleep. But then I was like, you know what, I'm just going to listen to some panpipes or something, or, like, some wind chimes. And then I started getting into, like, this sort of guided meditation stuff. And you know what? It does work. Because you're just sort of, like, training your mind to just concentrate.
Yeah.
You just fall asleep. You gone?
Yeah, I've done something similar, I suppose. Yeah, do you know I've got an Amazon Alexa.
Okay.
And you can get it to play. This is really weird. On Star Trek, they have. You probably won't notice, but in every scene when they're on the ship, they've got this din of the ship traveling through space, like that you don't notice. You can get that. I read that. That's one things like that. A constant sound like that can help you sleep.
Yeah.
And I tried it, and it was brilliant. It worked.
Silence can actually be the worst thing sometimes. And
Yeah.
I found that because I've lived in the city centre for so long. When I moved back to my mum's for a couple of years in my late 30s, and where she lives in Sale, it gets quiet after about 10 o'clock, and I struggled with it. It sent me under a bit, to be honest. I was like...
Yeah, it's not...
So I had TalkSport.
You get used to things like that, don't you?
Yeah, I just had stuff like Radio 5 or TalkSport on and go to sleep with that on. But I found like some guided meditation or something like that, or some nice wind chimes or something. Because listening to Tool was probably, don't get me wrong, brilliant.
I love Tool.
Yeah, I mean, I was actually thinking about talking about the last album, because we didn't really talk about anything too music. Well, we did, but not specifically. And like,
did you like it?
Are you still listening to it?
No, I suppose. No, I'm not.
No.
I did for a while. Did for a good few weeks.
Yeah, but not for years and years and
No.
years and years afterwards, like we did all the others. And you know what? If like one of the songs came on, I would be a bit like, which one's that again? Whereas if Stinkfist comes on, or Eulogy or something like that, I know it straight away. I think that like they made an album of tunes that are brilliant if you're at Coachella on mushrooms. It's very... they're 55-year-old guys. It's been 13 years. So good that they've made an album that... I tell you what as well, some of the riffs on it, I'm like, do they know that those riffs sound just like riffs off other albums? Is it a homage thing and they've done it on purpose? Or are they being lazy? I'm not quite sure. I think that the live show is where these new songs will really come into their own, more than any of the material they've ever done before. And I think if you look at some of the stuff that they were doing on the last album and Lateralist, you could see they were going in this direction. But it's not a very immediate album.
No, definitely not.
And I can see why people didn't like it. I can see it because, it's dense. You've got to give it some time and effort. And luckily, I was on holiday when it came out. I was sat on a balcony in Portugal, so I could sit there. I could burn one up and put the headphones on them. If I was listening to that driving about in my car, I don't think I'd have quite gravitated towards it as much. And I don't think Maynard's vocal performance is on a level. I think that it sounds too. I mean, he's brilliant. Obviously, it sounds like I don't like A Perfect Circle and Pussyfoot. I get that people like him, but I don't think his best vocals. The Lateralus, 10,000 Days, Enema,
definitely.
blah 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 blah. That's the Maynard I like. And to be fair, out of all the people in Tool, Maynard's the guy that I find the least interesting.
Right? Did you see him on Rogan?
Yeah, he's cool. He's a cool guy, but as a musician, I'm more into what the guitarist and the bass player are doing specifically, particularly Justin Chancellor because he's just an astonishing bass player. I think he's the key player in the team. To be fair, though, that takes away from the other two, doesn't it? But like Maynard could not be in that band, and I would still listen to them. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
But I don't know. One thing I realised is I haven't listened to it in a while. It's not been on my get home, got to listen to it.
Rotation of
and there's I'm always finding stuff that I've got to listen to again. Like, and people come round and be like, "Have you heard this? Have you heard this? You've got to hear this."
Yeah.
And I've just not had that with this. I've enjoyed it, and I believe they're going to be touring next year, so I will see it, and I will
definitely
get myself into a nice zone to go and watch them. I think it'll be the 5th or 6th time that I've seen them.
Impressive.
And they'll be amazing. They'll be amazing.
Oh, they will.
I think I saw them in 1998.
Bloody hell. I suppose if
2001, sorry, Lateralus tour.
If they are back, it'll be interesting to see what they do next, I guess.
Probably.
That's what they did there was a culmination of what they've gone through the last 7, 8 years.
I can't see how the next they can't take as long to make it because let's be fair, they'll be very old-ish.
Yeah.
Secondly, like it feels like a full stop to the career. It feels like a final offering.
Yeah, I could see that.
I feel like they might have run out of petrol.
That might have been the last of their juice.
Yeah, I think so. And I almost feel like they felt pressured to put it out.
Maybe.
I feel the music. I just feel like they've probably been sat on that music for fucking years.
Yeah, it definitely could have been. Yeah,
because it's not any. It just sounds like a lot of Lateralus B-sides.
Yeah,
which is great. There's nothing wrong with that. And it's like I say, if I'm on mushrooms at Coachella or fucking whatever, and those tunes are playing and that rhythmic pulsating power that they have as a natural thing is in it, then absolutely I'm going to enjoy it. But like I say, listening to that in your car driving about, you're just not going to get there. Maybe for a long journey.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
but it's not an album to be digested easily. And there are other ones you could at least tap into. Like, the songs were 4 and 5 minutes long in a lot of cases. Every single one. When I first heard that all the songs were like 8 or 9 minutes, I was a bit like, oh shit. There should be a bit of editing maybe, a little bit more immediacy.
Yeah.
And there's no outright aggression on there either.
No, it's quite a deep. I suppose, that's probably why you haven't absorbed it as much because all the songs are long. And you have to put the time in.
There's a lot of tonal and textual similarities across the board, though. I think.
Yeah.
And it can sound a bit samey.
I think I need to listen to it more, actually.
I actually had a go last night, and I got like halfway through, and I was like, I think I put Parabola on or something like that. And I was demonstrating to it, I was like, as much as I think this is cool, this is fucking miles better.
Yeah,
it's indisputably miles better.
Yeah.
Sorry to say it.
Yeah.
And I was when it first came out, I was like, fuck you haters, Tool have smashed it again. And I do think that, but I get why people are not digging it.
Yeah, it's had mixed.
It was so hyped up.
Yeah, it was. It was just because they were back.
Yeah,
that was the main. That was the big event.
I'll tell you what it is. It's just a prog album.
Yeah,
it's just they've just really, and it's funny because everyone's always been like, "Oh, Tool, it's brilliant that they're so proggy as well as really heavy." And when they finally do the full prog thing, people are like, "Oh, too prog for me." That
too prog.
You know what I mean? It's like, are they giving you what you didn't? Isn't that what you wanted?
Yeah.
Didn't you want all the third eye shit and the fucking time signatures and all this to be the prevalent part of the music and not just the fact that some riffs fucking rock and that's the end of it? Because let's be fair, the thing about Tool, and I've always said this, as pretentious as they may or not be, they fucking rock.
They do.
When they kick into gear, the Grudge, mate.
Yeah.
They started with that when I first saw them. I fucking shit myself, man.
Yeah, they're one of the best, especially live.
Yeah,
live.
Outrageous. So yeah,
we've run out of time here, but I was going to ask.
Is that how quick it's been?
Yeah, 2 hours. Yeah.
Amazing.
I was going to ask who are some of the people who are worth a shout out who've helped you along the way?
Do you know what? I don't want to. If I start naming names, we'll be here all fucking night. All my people know that I love them. Everyone that's done me a good turn knows that I fucking love that, and I respect it, and I will always try and make the effort for those people.
Always.
And the people that have wronged me, well, they'll be dealt with in time, won't they? Joking, sorry. We'll get to them at a later date.
We'll definitely do this again, man.
No,
definitely.
I've got a lot of good friends, and I've got a lot of people that have helped me out, and I feel like I've been part of some really cool things in my life, and I'm very grateful for that, and I'm looking forward to the next phase of it.
You've been given some good advice over the years.
You know, yes. Yeah, but if I started saying one person, the next person, then I would forget about someone that is equally deserving.
Yeah.
And I think everybody that's listening to this that knows me knows that, like, I give the love.
If someone's done something good for you, you've done something good for them.
Look, it's just, basically.
Yeah.
I'm grateful.
Yeah.
I'm grateful for all the help I've had along the way, and it's been fun so far.
Yeah,
so we'll see where the next stage gets us to.
I really appreciate you doing this, man.
No,
It's been
great
fantastic,
fun, man. I've really enjoyed it.
and we'll definitely do it again.
Oh yeah,
Definitely,
yeah.
when you've done the line, done some more
Give me a
stuff.
few months to get a few more bits done.
Yeah.
I was thinking about things to talk about,
We were never going to run out of things to talk about.
No, but there's a level of, like, you've got to be careful not to just be like two guys in a pub chatting rubbish.
Of course.
So yeah, cool.
I think we've managed to avoid that.
I think so. If you're happy, I'm happy.
I'm very happy, mate.
Oh, brilliant. Well, that's what we wanted, isn't it? Brilliant.
Cheers. Thank you.
Top man. Woo. Yeah. Excellent.